casually tune into this, you can't, because her story is actually really, really interesting, which makes sense because it went viral. And of course, I'm going to be working, so if I end up popping on this screen at any time, that's because I am off screen and I needed to go grab something like my tea for this morning. So without further ado, let's get started. And if you got the gym to go to, you got to get your steps in, this is a perfect time to do it while we catch up on the Danish Deception. So we're now on part 9, and then I have to pop back into my system to grab us from parts 10 through the rest of it, since we were missing parts 8 and 9 last time. If I start lagging again, hopefully that doesn't happen, but if I do start lagging again, we might pause things and then come back. Let's get into it.
The Danish Deception, Part 9. Okay, so he calls me and he tells me that he's had the worst news that he possibly could have. The IRS has told him that he owes $318,000 in taxes.
Right. So last time I ended off by saying it drives me nuts that this guy just keeps dumping every single huge thing that happens to him on her. Like, once again, I'm not sure how she's okay with marrying a man like this, where it's constant chaos after chaos after chaos, because that's not normal for the majority. And every time there's like some big financial thing going on, like, girl, the walls were screaming at this point, like the red flags were screaming, and we were just dodging them like a freaking ninja. Okay, I'm gonna try to pause this. Let's actually get into this.
In addition to that, his dad owes $12 million in taxes. And at this point, I did not have a lot of information about his family money because I've always been the type of person, like, if your parents have money, that means your parents have money. That does not mean you have money. So I didn't even ask details about his parents' finances, but obviously I'm like, if his parents owe $12 million in taxes, they got money. And he said that the person that was doing his
That's your
taxes
assumption?
for years and years and also doing his dad's taxes was one of his childhood friends that owns an accounting firm. And he's like, we've been paying a lot of money in taxes over the years, so someone must be or committing some sort of fraud at this point. And so I'm obviously freaking out. This is a lot of money that he owes. So he said, you know what, I'm going to use the rest of the proceeds from selling my home. And in addition to that, he told me at this point he owns 3 different watches. He owns 2 Rolexes and a Patek watch, which, if you're not a watch person, these are very expensive watches. And so a couple hours go by. He's like, I sold my Patek watch, and like he said, he sold it at a loss. He just needed to get the money. He said he's short about 30K. And so he tells me that he's going to reach out to his parents, and his parents are like, we don't care. Like, this is not our problem. This is your problem. Figure it out. And he starts to just, like, continue spiraling. And so he tells me he's going to reach out to 2 of his childhood friends, one of which he was with this friend whenever we met in Croatia. So I knew they've been friends for a while, and then another childhood friend. And he told me, I've helped out these friends so much in the past, like, and it's almost like he was communicating to me that he was owed this money from them. I've never asked friends for money before, so this is like not anything that I'm comfortable with, but I was like, hey, if you feel comfortable doing this.
Isn't it interesting how this is the first time, and maybe she just like left this out in other instances where she ended up giving him money, but isn't this interesting how this is the first time that we're hearing that he has a Rolex and a Patek watch that he can sell, and he has childhood friends that he can reach out to? Why couldn't he do those things when he needed money the first 2 times? Why? Young Onika, why is this not like setting off red flags in your head? Because if he had this watch, the 2 watches that he could sell, and selling one of them ended up, giving him what, almost $20,000 back. Why couldn't he have done this when he needed the 6,000 and the other money earlier? Make it make sense.
Go for it. I had not offered him
Girl.
a cent. So he comes back, says he's going to get 10,000 from one friend and then 5,000 from another friend. And I was like, that's so nice of them. He's like, I've honestly helped them so much in the past that, like,
He owes her
I'm grateful that they're
$10,000.
helping me when I'm in need. And so at this point, he's short $15,000.
He owes her $10,000. So Literally, I am hearing so like, okay, so you could have gotten the $10,000 in your pockets right away by borrowing it from a friend, and the friend probably would have had more leniency, and like you could have taken like paid them back, but you chose not to pay me back. Like, I do not. I would be so pissed hearing any of this. Like, if I was in her situation and this guy still owed me like $10,000, I would be so pissed knowing that he could have had access to funds and he just like chose not to. Taking advantage of your kindness, of your selflessness. Once again, selflessness without discernment is just you being foolish. And this is just complete and utter foolishness. Oh, so blinded.
And so he just comes right out and asks me, like, can I borrow it? And I did not say yes right away. I said, listen, I have to pay my taxes too, because I was working at an accounting firm. Obviously, that's W-2 income, but I was also doing real estate and I did very well the year before. So I owed a pretty penny in taxes. And it's March of 2023. So my taxes are coming up pretty soon. And so I told him, I'm like, I'm not comfortable giving you this money because, you know, like I have to pay taxes too. And now my savings is like really starting to like, I'm starting to feel like the financial impact and it's starting to stress me out. And he said, you know, I hired a law firm. They've already looked into my tax records. They've already found indicators of fraud. I think I'm going to be able to get this turned around really quickly. And my biggest worry and concern is that if I don't pay this tax bill, it's going to affect my chances of getting a green card. And that's when I start to panic. And now I realize that I was just in a very toxic cycle of emotional manipulation. But after some time, he talks me into loaning him the $15,000. And I remember I only could send him like $3K at a time. And so I remember it was like over like the course of 5 days. And like every day he'd be like, hey, don't forget to send the payment. And everything about this felt so wrong in my soul, but I did it anyways. And this was not something that I kept quiet about. Like I told my parents, I told my siblings, like my ex got this crazy tax bill and, you know, they were all aware that we were going through this like financial hiccup, and I didn't like want to be presented as these people with money. So I was very upfront and honest about it. And like you can ask a lot of my friends, like I told a lot of my close people about this situation. And quick side note,
Okay, so the fact that she is emphasizing I told them about this situation indicates to me that the previous situations she wasn't being forthcoming with her friends and her family. Because remember, I keep saying, where are your friends? Where is your family? Because no one in their right mind, if you are actually like if you have close friendships and familial relationships that care about you, the first two times you lend this man money, no one in their right mind would have said, yeah, this is healthy, continue, go and marry this guy. So now I'm understanding like the delulu was full on just with her. It sounds like she just wasn't being forthcoming with anyone that was close to her about the previous situations where this man had asked her for money. Because if they started seeing this pattern, especially like the second time that he asked her for money, the friends and the family would have been like, wait, again, a guy who's a CEO, who's an Olympian, who apparently has royal blood, like why does he need money from you again? This is why whenever you are like dating and you're really wanting to commit to someone, you think that they're a person that you want to marry, you've got to have those people, those trusted few people that you can share like the majority of what is going on in the relationship with, so that you can have other people who are able to help you to better discern, so long as they're able to provide like a more objective viewpoint and step outside of their own relationships and their own biases to view what is going on in your life and give you sound advice, sound guidance. And for some people that can look like the people in your church, because they're like a little bit more far removed from like your inner circle. And for others it can't look like having people in your inner circle who love you and also don't care about hurting your feelings for the purpose of protecting you. Man, this is insane.
no, I did not tell them that I was loaning him money. I just told them that he owed a lot of money, and I told them about the overall situation. But at this point, no one knows that I have given him any money. So I ended up giving him the money. He's so grateful. He's like, thank you so much for helping me out. And so about like 5 days later, he flies to Dallas to come and visit. And my parents came to visit maybe a couple of days after he came. And at this point, he's staying in the living room, not in the bed with me, but he could not go to a hotel because we're like trying to be mindful with spending. So my parents definitely started to bond with my ex a lot more over this trip. Like I remember my dad brought him this Nigerian Igbo cane that my ex had been admiring, that my dad had one. He surprised him, brought him one from Nigeria, and he actually took my dad out and asked him for my hand in marriage, even though we were already married. And my dad said yes. And my dad also broke kola nut in front of the family and like welcomed my ex into the family. It's just, I mean, it was really special. Obviously, we were dealing with a lot of financial
My
stress, but I
gosh.
want you all to know that like I was happy a majority of the time, regardless of the stress I was going through, which is just insane to.
Well, no, that's not actually insane. That's not insane. When you are in a healthy, loving relationship and life lives, you don't stop loving the person. And this is where, once again, this is not a healthy love. And you can definitely tell that this is her first, like, serious relationship because she's making statements like this. Because when you do find your true love, that whole through, till death do us part, that whole, like, through thick and thin, that does apply because you are still going to find moments of happiness even in moments of hardship and struggle. The love doesn't just disappear. But in this case, yeah, it is insane that she was not picking up on the red flags. In a normal, healthy relationship, just because you're going through hardships, that doesn't mean that you're not going to find moments of happiness. In this situation, it seems insane because all of the red flags were there. She's even having to filter out the things that she's telling her friends and family. And that in and of itself is a red flag, not only for her and like how she communicates with her friends and her family, but I always find that if you are with someone that you truly, truly love, like that's the person that you want to marry, and you cannot be upfront with at least one, like one of your friends and your family about what is going on within the dynamic, you should be taking a step back and being like, hey, like, is this truly someone I want to be with if I feel like I have to lie about, you know, like this aspects of our relationship, like if I'm embarrassed about it or something like that, like does that mean that there's something potentially wrong with the relationship? Is there something potentially wrong with the situation? I can understand, once again, being also from an African family, there's some things that you do filter out, but there should have been at least like one friend that she could have told about the entire situation and gotten feedback from. And the fact that she didn't feel like she could, that could have also been her subconscious just trying to be like, hey, we don't feel good about this, not even good about it enough to like tell our like our best friend about like more about what the situation is. Like that should have been an indicator to her like this is not a good situation if I can't even tell my best friend or whoever I consider my best friend or my closest friend about the full extent of the situation, that I've already loaned him money before and now this is the third time that I'm loaning him money again. But it's not insane that you were still happy despite the financial hardship. That's normal. That's normal. All relationships go through their ups and downs. People lose their jobs, finances change, you get different responsibilities. That's normal. It just doesn't seem normal in this situation because you know intuitively that all of this constant chaos and the financial request from this guy is abnormal. At least your body knows it, your intuition knows it, but you're choosing to ignore it.
Understand. But after a week, we ended up going to Cabo for one of my childhood friends' wedding. And I had
Why is he
paid for
traveling so
the
much?
portion of the wedding already because I had been planning on going by myself. And then
Okay,
obviously
okay.
I got into a relationship. So I just had to pay like a little extra to add someone to the reservation. But we decided to go a couple days early and celebrate like our honeymoon. And so we basically, our flight comes and he's staying in the living room. My parents are sleeping in the guest bedroom. And I wake up and I get a text from him. And he says, hey, can you come downstairs real quick? And I said, of course. So I go downstairs. I'm like, what's up? He said, one of my friends, the friend that he had received 5K from for the tax bill, reached out to me and said he's freaking out because his wife really wants to buy this house and he's short a certain amount of money to purchase this home. And obviously he was like, I feel so bad because he loaned it to me because he was trying to help me out. And
Right.
my biggest strength and weakness is empathy. And when I
Yeah.
saw him hurting because his friend was not able to do
Oh my
something because
gosh.
of the money he had loaned my ex, and at this point I felt like the friend had loaned us the money. It wasn't like he loaned my ex the money because we were married. And so I do something so stupid and idiotic. I end up loaning him an additional 3K not even a week after I had already given him 15K. So I actually ended up giving him $18,000 in the month of March of 2023. Yes, I'm sick to my stomach. So I can send him the money. We end up going to the airport, fly to Cabo. We have an amazing trip. And at this point, I had just hard launched him on my Instagram Valentine's Day prior. So at this point, I hard launched him after we were already married. And we were in Cabo, and I'm like posting more
Wait a
photos of him
minute.
on my social media.
He
And I'm
has
going through,
wait. He has I didn't even realize like the major I didn't realize that not everyone knew that she was even in a relationship yet. I guess because of the speed at which things were moving at, and then they got married. But even then, I like the moment there was a ring on my finger, I would have hard launched you. But I guess there was some form of respect in there where they waited to hard launch him until after he had asked the parents' permission to marry her. But that's insane that like the rest of her social circle didn't even know that she was in a relationship yet. That's wild.
my Instagram story views, and I'm looking at the names, and I'm seeing all of these Danish names, and I can tell they're Danish names because there's a different Danish alphabet. And so I'm clicking some of the profiles, and a lot of them you can see like my ex is like the mutual, like follows them. And so I brought it up to him like, hey, all these Danish people are watching my story, but I thought it was weird that no one was like following me. I'm like, these are your friends. Like, and I wanted him to maintain the same friendships in Denmark, even though he was moving to the States, because I never want to be the type of person that takes a man away from like his friends and family. And so I remember I'm clicking profiles, and I click a girl's profile, and I look at the first picture, and I see my ex's dog. And that's something that I actually haven't mentioned. My ex did have a dog, and every time he came to visit, he had a friend that was watching the dog. And whenever he sold his place and decided that he was going to spend more time in Dallas, he ended up giving his dog ended up getting adopted by some people because he's like, I just am not home enough. And at first I told him like, bring the dog to Dallas. Like I wanted the dog to come. He's like, no, it's fine. Like that does not make sense to do. And I supported his decision. And he told me that the ex could not take the dog because she was in med school and was constantly out of the home, and she just did not have the capacity to take care of the dog. But I see his dog, and it's like a duck toller retriever. I think that duck tolling retriever. I think that's how you say it. I saw his dog as a puppy on this girl's profile, and I click the tag, and my ex is tagged. And so I look at him, I go, is this your ex-girlfriend? He was like, oh yeah, it is. I was like, oh, so she's watching my stories. He's like, yeah. I was like, okay, that's a little weird. And I remember checking like throughout the course of like every day for like a week, and like all these Danish people are still watching my story every day.
This is
And I'm
wild.
like, don't you think this is weird that there's like 15 Danish people watching my
Hey
story
everyone, by the
every
way,
day?
feel free to
And
chat.
it's like,
If
honestly, I
you're
just feel like
working,
they're a little bit salty
feel free
that
to
I like
continue working.
moved on. I'm moving to America. Like I think
Let
they
me
might be
actually
a
pop
little
up my Twitch
salty.
chat. Sorry,
And he
guys.
said you should just block them all. Like I'm not gonna lie, this is like a very toxic group of people. And so I was like, is that what you want me to do? He said,
Okay, no. No, 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 no. See, this is why I said that you are, oh my gosh, do not agree to be someone's boyfriend or girlfriend, let alone their wife, without meeting the friends and meeting the family. Because if this is a toxic group of people, why are they still following you? Why do they have access to your social media? Why does your ex still have access to your social media? Like, I have so many questions, and we wouldn't have any of these questions if she wasn't so delulu and getting blinded by love that she skipped all of these very important steps to understanding who your man is. You literally don't know actually anything about your man because you were never able to verify anything that he ever told you by formally meeting his family and his friends. It's not normal for a man who's what, like in his 30s, who's so like well performing and everything like that, as an entrepreneur. He's like a successful entrepreneur. It is not normal for him to be like, oh yeah, block all of these people, like they're very toxic friends that still have access to my social media. What normal adult has toxic friends or friends that are so toxic that they still allow them to have access to their social media? Like, if you want me to block them, why aren't they blocked on your social media?
yeah, just block them all. Like they're not here for the right reasons. They're just looking to like creep, and they're probably just talking a bunch of shit. So
Wow.
I said, okay. And I decided to block them all. And so
She drives me nuts.
basically, we come back from Cabo. He stays for about a month, and then he goes back to Denmark. And at this point, he had come to visit me so many times. And so I decided, now's my time to go spend time with him in Europe. And with his dad's health and his work, it made sense for me to just, go out of my way to try to spend time with him. And I could work remote at the time. And so I board a flight and I head to Denmark for the first time. And I land in Denmark, and I will continue on in part 10.
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. I keep thinking that I won't get more surprised by her decisions, and it keeps getting worse. How does this keep getting worse? But it's okay. My goodness. Okay. Let's get into part 10. I'm posing the exact same question as I did last time. Let me know if you would actually, let alone like become someone's like boyfriend and girlfriend, but like marry someone whose friends and family you still haven't formally met. Because what are we doing? It's a different situation if they've lost their parents. We talked about that during the first stream. And it would be a different situation if they don't have any friends, but then that can also be a pink flag. But like this guy has friends, he has family, and you still chose to marry him without meeting any side of his. That's wild. Okay, let's get into part 10.
He kept saying, do you want to go stay in a hotel or Airbnb? Do you want to stay here? And I'm like, why would we not stay here? Like, if I went to go visit my parents and I wanted to stay in an Airbnb, they'd be devastated. I was like, of course we're staying here. And he was like, I know it's not like nice. It's a super old house. They haven't renovated it. Like, I don't understand. They have all this money. Like, why don't they do it? I'm like, it's fine. Like, don't worry. We'll be okay. Another thing I noticed was that I did not meet the older sister. No one spoke of her. And I knew at this point she had one kid at this point. So they talked about her a little bit, but it was kind of like the elephant in the room.
One moment. I feel like we missed a little bit of the beginning. So let's maybe go back. If you're wondering why this is taking so long, is because the media player won't allow me to be like super, super specific with the time stamp. So, oh no. How far back do we need to go to get to the very beginning? Okay, it says control left. Okay, so let's just finish a little bit of the end of part 7.
I will end right now, and we will pick back up in part 8.
We're going to part 10.
The Danish Deception, part 10.
Okay.
So I land in Denmark after a couple of layovers, and my ex is waiting after baggage claim. He's waving a Danish flag, and I'm just so excited to be in Denmark for the first time. And so we land, we go to one of his friends' homes because we're staying there for the night. We change, and we go directly to an Easter lunch with him and all of his childhood friends. So I walk in, and everyone is just so, so nice. And it's his childhood friends and like their wives and girlfriends. And everyone was just super kind to me. We were drinking, having fun. After a while, I was super jet lagged. So we ended up going back to his friend's house. That's where we stayed that night. And the following day, he gives me the hometown tour. So he shows me where he got baptized. He shows me his elementary school, and we're just exploring. Okay. And I just feel so grateful to like see his roots, see where he grew up. And after the day of exploring, we go to his parents' house, and this is my first time meeting his parents, and I am so, so nervous. I've always done really well with parents, but this is, different situation because number one, there's not a whole lot of Black people in Denmark, so they're not used to meeting people that look like me. Also, this man has made it very clear that he's moving to America, so you can only imagine how a mother might feel about the woman that's moving her son 5,000 miles away. So I was really, really nervous, but I'm not even kidding. The second I walked in, me and his mom instantly connected. And I think we bonded over our mutual love for my ex. And so it was his parents and his sister and her boyfriend that she had just recently started dating. We're all at this dinner. She cooked a very traditional Danish meal. It's called flæskesteg. I remember I had seconds, I had thirds. I think that made her fall in love with me even more because what mother doesn't want a girl that's going to eat their food?
Absolutely.
And so I brought her like a bunch of gifts, her and his father. I brought them gifts from Dallas, and we just really bonded that first day. She brought out all these photo albums and was showing me like my ex's childhood photos, and it was a really special night. And I remember my ex kept being like, "Are you sure you're okay with staying here?" Because one thing I will say is they lived in a very, very humble home. And listen, I know there's billionaires out there that drive Honda Civics, so I don't judge. I'm never the type of person being like, "Why are you guys staying in this small house?" Spend your money the way you want to spend your money. So I didn't think anything of it. But I did definitely, I was a little bit surprised. And also, Denmark is not the type of place that has all these like big houses. Like a lot of the homes are small, regardless of if you have money. But again, didn't think anything of it. So we have a great dinner. The following day, we start going and having these like day trips all over Denmark and going to explore. And it's always me, my ex, and his parents. And one day we went to this area called Skagen, which is the most northern part of Denmark. And it's really beautiful. And it was just fun to go and explore. And we're driving home, and my ex starts yelling at his dad. His dad is yelling back. They just start going at it. And obviously they're speaking Danish. I have no clue what they're saying. My ex pulls over. He gets out of the car, storms out, starts like walking away. I get out of the car. I chase after him. I'm like, "What's happening? What's happening?" And he was like, "My dad basically just said that he's over today. He just wants to go back and watch his game." And I was like, and he basically said he was really upset because he felt like his dad wasn't making an effort to get to know me. And that's when I realized that him and his dad had a really, really toxic relationship. And I also noticed that like they basically exchanged like 1 to 2 sentences a day. I also noticed that he wasn't as close with his sister, his little sister, because I mean, they would talk all the time. And so I thought that was a little strange too. But
What did I say? What? This is why you do not agree to be someone's girlfriend, let alone marry them without your parents knowing, or your friends knowing, without meeting their family, because he could have been selling you a complete and utter fabrication about his family history without you actually getting to verify that. And now that you're actually seeing the dynamics in person, it's great that the family was so welcoming. That actually surprised me that the family was even existed. TBH, I was expecting his family to maybe not really exist. But yeah, now we're actually getting to see the dynamics play out. This is why it's important to actually verify with your own eyes instead of being so delulu that you end up just taking this man's word for everything. Girl, I'm not usually the "I told you so" friend, but once again, if I had been her friend and I had told her like, "Hey, like stop seeing this man," and she kept doing it, and then she messaged me like, yeah, him and his dad has a very toxic relationship," I would literally be like, "And you're surprised because did I not tell you?" Keep in mind, this is the dad that he was so comfortable with asking for $50,000. And they barely talk. Also, how is he always talking to his sister, but in person they're barely talking? Like, the red flags are popping up, and I hope that she starts to pinpoint, hey, like, everything that you've been selling me so far, there's holes.
I don't know, I'm still trying to really
If she loans him more money after this, I'm gonna be pissed off.
understand this family dynamic. But what I do know is that he's a mama's boy. He's close with his mom, which, that was really, really important to me. There were a few things that I took away from this trip. The first being that he is a little bit embarrassed of his family's home. He kept saying, do you want to go stay in a hotel or Airbnb? Do you want to stay here? And I'm like, why would we not stay here? Like, if I went to go visit my parents and I wanted to stay in an Airbnb, they'd be devastated. I was like, of course we're staying here. And he was like, I know it's not like nice. It's a super old house. They haven't renovated it. Like, I don't understand. They have all this money. Like, why don't they do it? I'm like, it's fine. Like, don't worry. We'll be okay. Another thing I noticed was that I did not meet the older sister. No one spoke of her. And I knew at this point she had one kid at this point. So they talked about her a little bit, but it was kind of like the elephant in the room. Like, no one really talked about it. And, I know they don't have a relationship. They can't be with each other in intimate settings. But overall, like, I did have a good trip with him, despite the
Does she
tension.
exist?
So after a week, we traveled to Copenhagen, and I remember getting to Copenhagen, and I'm immediately just so happy to be there because this city exceeded my expectations. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. And we ended up staying in a hotel, like a cheaper hotel by the water, and I can stay anywhere. I'm good. I don't need to stay anywhere bougie. And I remember him being like, I hate that we have to stay here. Like, it's not nice. I'm like, I don't care. Like, we have a bed, we have a place to stay. It's okay. And so we spent that whole week just exploring Copenhagen, and then we get ready to travel to Nigeria for my grandmother's burial. And so at this point, we're staying in this hotel, and I remember there was like a laundromat at this hotel, so I was doing laundry, and he said, I'm gonna go and get a few things from my storage unit, because he's moved out of his place at this point. He has a storage unit. And so he comes back home and he has like this Rolex box, and he's like, oh, this is one of my Rolexes, I want to show it to you. And at this point, I had already seen his steel, what's it called? The Batman. I already had seen that watch. He had brought it out for Cabo. So I've seen one of his watches. To Patek, he sold. I never saw it. Then this is now the second watch he's bringing out. And he opens it. And it's, again, I did not know anything about watches before this, but now I know it's a day-date presidential watch with a green face. So he ends up telling me this is like a $50,000 watch. I was like, this is nice. And keep in mind, we're about to leave for Nigeria in like a day. I'm like, why'd you bring it out? And he's like, oh, I'm going to bring it to Nigeria. I go, you're going to do what?
What?
And he's like, I'm bringing it to Nigeria. I'm like, you cannot bring a $50,000 watch to Nigeria.
That's a really good way to get
yeah,
robbed.
I can. And I'm like,
potentially killed.
This does not make sense. And he said, no, like, this is a special occasion. Like, I want to bring it out for this. And so I told him, okay, I feel very uncomfortable, especially like us being in the village and you're wearing this like expensive watch. You're just asking yourself to get robbed. I just did not understand it, but whatever. He ends up packing the watch. We get ready and we hop on a flight to go to Nigeria and meet my family for my grandmother's burial. Keep in mind, he had paid for all the hotels, everything in Denmark, and he paid for all the hotels and flights for Nigeria. And so we hop on a plane, go to Nigeria. I'm super nervous because I just don't know what to expect and how he's going to react. But we go, we meet up with my family, and he does so well. And it was funny because everyone wanted to take photos with him, and he was meeting my extended family, like my grandmother. I never thought I would bring a man home to meet my grandmother. I felt like I fell deeper in love with him, watching him just immerse himself in my culture and be there for my family while we put my grandmother to rest. And it was just a really amazing, beautiful trip. Honestly, there was nothing crazy that happened. And he tells me while we're in Nigeria that the law firm has settled the issue with his taxes, and they're filing a document for the accounting firm to pay out a settlement, and it'll be paid out soon. And then he'll be able to transfer me the money that I'm owed. And so I'm like, oh, I'm breathing deeply. And it's awkward because I want to bring it up to him all the time, but he's also paying for everything. So I feel like I don't want to put too much pressure on him, even though I should have. So we come back to Denmark, and at this point, we are trying to figure out what our plan is, when we're going to come back to the States. And he says, you know what, like, let's just go back to my parents' house in my hometown. They were actually on a vacation, so the house was empty, and we can figure out what we want to do next. And I said, okay, that sounds good. So we go to his parents' house, and at this point, I'm still working remote. So I remember I was at the dining table working, and he walks up to me, and he says, I have some really, really good news. I was like, what's up? He said, my realtor just reached out to me and said there's a very wealthy family that is interested in purchasing this apartment complex. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best news in the world. And he said, there is one caveat, and I will continue on in part 11. The Danish Deception, part 9.
There's always a caveat.
So he calls me and he tells me that he's had the worst news that he possibly could have.
Oh, wait.
The
Okay, so that's what ended up happening. Let me find part 11. Let's find it. Okay. Oh, so part 9. Okay, there you go. Part 9 and 10 were there. Let me control. So now we're in part 11.
To make sure I had enough money for like bills and miscellaneous. I just wanted to have a little bit of
I don't like it when we don't get right to the beginning. Is that worry that we miss something?
There's one caveat. So apparently it's a very wealthy family. He did not know who this wealthy family was. But this family, the way they draft up the contracts, whenever they have to buy a property for tax purposes, and there's like a certain cutoff for when they need to acquire a property, they have like their own contract drafted up that basically requires the buyer and the seller to put money into escrow, so that if the seller changes their mind of selling the house, they get liquidated damages. Basically, make sure the deal goes through. I have never experienced anything like this in my real estate career. Obviously, Denmark is a different country. I didn't really know how real estate worked there. So not only is it different rules and guidelines, but it's also, I've never worked with like a super ultra wealthy family before to understand that this might be a requirement or something added in their contracts. And so I remember being like, how much is it going to be? And he's like, oh, it's going to be like $120,000. I remember just like being like, well, we don't have this money. Like, there's no way we can make this work. And so he said, I'm going to be able to come up with a loan, get a loan from a bank. I've already called them. I can get a loan from them for like $100,000. So we're just going to be short another amount. And at this point, my accounts are dwindling. And because I was in this,
the fact that she's still not seeing this pattern of it's always a huge amount first. Oh, I can cover some of this. I can cover this little bit. And then you just have to give me this small amount. The fact that she's not seeing this pattern still is honestly like starting to drive me nuts, because at this point you can't continue to be this blind. I know that she's trying to say like, oh, when the like I don't understand how real estate works, they're an ultra wealthy family. Girl, social media has made it so easy for us to access people from around the world, and a lot of people, especially if you want to find a real estate agent that's actually in Denmark on social media, you can, and you could send them DMs and you could try to get clarity on this. I don't know if this is the time where ChatGPT existed. But even before ChatGPT, you could go and try and research yourself. And the fact that she's not taking any initiative to better understand what is happening. Like, obviously she's in real estate, but the fact that she's not taking any initiative to try and understand what he's talking about outside of just taking his word for it is driving me insane. Yes, you can trust your partner, but that doesn't mean that you remain ignorant, especially now that he owes you what? I think over $28,000. Like, what are we doing? This is not, once again, this is not normal love. This is not healthy love. It just drives me absolutely bonkers. And I said that I was going to get pissed off if she loaned him more money. I don't know how much more she's about to loan him, but well, let's find out.
Long distance relationship, I was not focused on doing real estate at all. Like, I had taken a full step back from real estate. But I did have a career where I was making well over six figures. So I still was like making a pretty steady income. But my savings had been dwindling down. So I didn't have a whole lot of money left. So I remember at this point, he's like, we should make this deal work. And I'm seeing this as a way to get out of our financial position. And
go on my phone for
let me just say, my ex, if he wasn't such a narcissistic psychopath, he'd be such a great actor, because the way he sold this stuff to me, like, it was insane. So I remember he said that he was going to take his watches to a store to see if he could get it sold within 24 hours. Obviously, that might be kind of difficult. And so at this point, he was like, how much money do you have? And I was like, I really don't have a whole lot of money to give you. So I remember I gave him like a small amount, maybe like 3,000, because I wanted to make sure I had enough money for like bills and miscellaneous. And I just wanted to have a little bit of cushion. And I was getting stressed out, but he ended up coming up with the money. He says the deal goes through and that it's going to close in 6 weeks. And so he tells me what I think I'm going to do is switch my address from Denmark to the States, especially since I have been living in the States more, and I'll be able to save money on taxes. And at this point, I was like, is this tax evasion? He goes, this is absolutely not tax evasion, because I am spending more time in Dallas than I am in Denmark. And I said, okay, well.
See, this is something that you should have run. Like, you can call your government to get like more insight. It is not impossible to get in contact with the IRS and clarify. Like, it's really pissing me off how she is just trusting his word for everything, especially after visiting the family and noticing that there's a disconnect between how he describes the relationship with his family and how the relationship actually is in person. Why are we still trusting this man implicitly? He's telling you it's not tax evasion. Why didn't you end up calling the IRS, or in my case, like the CRA, or your own accountant, and getting clarification? And if your accountant can't answer it because maybe they don't work with like international situations, like, they can connect you with someone who might have more information. The fact that she is acting out of ignorance here. This is not an excuse. Like, there's so many checkpoints where she could have taken more action, and I understand that she's probably still grieving from the loss of her grandmother and all of this stuff, but like, there's so many opportunities that she could have taken to double check this guy to stop getting herself in the hole, and she just chose not to do it. And being in love does not mean that you turn into an ignorant fool that just like trust your man with everything, even if you are someone who follows traditional like biblical Christianity and everything like that. Like, you can still have questions and you know, have conversations about the decisions your partner is making. And I still don't even understand how like religion plays into their relationship, what that even looks like for them. But she mentioned God previously, right? Being a God-fearing woman to some extent previously. So even if maybe like that's what she was trying to model, this is not what God asks of us. He does not ask us to be completely blind, ignorant fools. She should have been double checking, especially when these inconsistencies started popping up. Let's continue. I'll be happy.
If you've done research and you feel certain about this, then I believe you. So the deal goes through. It says it's going to close in 6 weeks. And so he said, we should take a trip to celebrate. And I'm like, we don't have any money. And he was like, well, we can just use your credit cards because, you know, like, we'll be able to pay it off whenever the money hits. And this is probably one of the most like idiotic decisions I made. Y'all don't have to tell me this is stupid. I'm fully aware.
Okay.
But we ended up going to Portugal for a week, and we used my credit cards majority of this trip.
Oh.
He had a little bit of money because keep in mind, he is working as chief commercial officer for this tech company, and that was 100% real. And he was making about $400,000 a year. Again, 100% real. I, at certain times, have verified the money hitting his account from his company.
Oh.
So he's making money, even though we're having a lot of financial stress. He's still bringing in a steady income. I'm still bringing in a steady income. So he was able to pay a little bit of the trip, and I was able to pay a little bit of the trip. So we.
Okay. So she verified that this guy is making at least 400K a year. She's got a 6-figure income, I'm assuming in the 100K a year. But together, they're making $500,000 a year. And once again, you chose to marry this guy. Like, if I knew that this was the situation and like there's constant need for money, constant things popping up, why is it not flagging to you that there's something wrong with his money management? Because at minimum, at least she verified that he's making at least $400,000 a year. And yes, I understand as a business owner as well, sometimes we have to put out more. But at some point, there should have been a red flag like, okay, realistically, for his living expenses, his necessities, depending on like what kind of place that he's renting, maybe he's spending $10,000, $20,000 a month. So where's the rest of his money going? And the fact that he had the audacity, like, once again, poor financial management, to be like, yeah, let's go on a trip even though we are in financial distress, and let's put it on your credit card. Most men who are providers, I'm going to say this again, most, when they're genuine providers, they're not trying to manipulate and everything like that, there is going to be a sense of shame or guilt associated with making you as the woman in the relationship pay for stuff like this, especially when they've already borrowed $28,000 from you. They're not usually going to think of this. Like, they would rather go and, once again, Uber to make that money so that you guys can go to Portugal than get you to put it on your credit card so that you can continue to fall into more debt. At least she knew that this was dumb. Man.
Go to Portugal. We had the most spectacular week. I remember that was the week that I decided I want to get married in this country. I love it here. It's so beautiful. I was working still at this time, and with the time difference, I was basically working from like 5 to midnight. And there was one day while we were in Portugal that I was just complaining about working. I'm like, I'm so over this job and I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I was just complaining about it. And he just said, why don't you quit? And I remember looking at him like, what do you mean quit? And he said, well, we have this money coming in and I want you to be happy. I want you to do something that brings you joy, and real estate brings you joy. And I really hadn't been doing a whole lot of real estate that year. And so I told him, I said, well, it's going to be like kind of a transition. I'm not going to be making a lot of money.
We don't have money coming in. We don't have money coming in. sis, you're still in $28,000 worth of debt from this guy. There isn't money coming in. We don't have all of this money coming in. You have to get out of the hole and then start actually making money above clearing the debt for you guys to say that you have all of this money coming in. Until he rebuys his Rolex, like there isn't money coming in. What do you mean we have money coming in? This is akin to you don't date a man on his potential. By the way, that's the whole thing. You take a look at the man that who he currently is, and you like the man as is. Like, would you take him as is? Even if he doesn't go up, he doesn't go down, like just as is, would you take him? You don't date a man on his potential. You don't date a man based on the changes that you feel like you could get him to make to become the person that you want to be. Just like you don't make financial decisions on what is potentially coming in. You make financial decisions on where you're currently at, and where you're currently at, he still owes you $28,000 or more. Because now we've got the poor children added onto it. So the fact that I'm sure where this is going is she ends up quitting her job. The fact that she's about to make this decision from this place, and I understand being so done with her job and being so frustrated with it, but sometimes you end up holding on because you want to make sure that you are going to be making this decision from a place of stability, and she's not making this decision from a place of stability. She's making this decision based off of his word, and his word is untrustworthy. And his word doesn't even make sense because they don't have all this money coming in. It's a potential. But considering the current pattern of him needing money like every month, every few weeks, it's more likely that he's going to need money before you guys even get the money in. Or the money is going to come in and then he's going to need it for something else. What do you mean we have all this money coming in?
Money, at first he said, well, we're going to have a cushion, and luckily I make money. I'm going to be able to afford all the bills, and you can just focus on building your business back up. And so I was like, are you sure? He said yes. And let me tell you, everything about this decision, it felt right, but it also felt wrong. And let me tell you, I do not regret quitting my job. I regret the timing, because we were not in a great financial position, and I was making like $150,000 a year at this job. So it was a very steady, stable income.
Yeah.
And I trusted him to be my provider, and that was stupid. And I have never relied on a man for anything in my entire life, and I will never do it again, like never in a million years. But you know, you live and you learn, and I made the decision to put in my 2 weeks notice. And yes, I know that was idiotic.
I'm just going to say, from someone who is graciously and very gratefully provided for, this is not the PSA for do not rely on your partner, because there are going to be moments in life where you rely on your partner, especially if you're someone who wants to be the stay-at-home parent. There's going to be interdependence within the relationship. So the fact that she went through this journey and her takeaway from it is, I'm never going to rely on a man, that still shows me that she hasn't fully healed. Because when you are with a healthy partner that is truthful to their word and making decisions and taking action steps from a place of genuine care and concern for the family, it's okay to rely on them, because usually they're not going to be making decisions like this from a place of insanity where they're going to get you to quit your job even though you guys are not financially stable in the moment. So this is not a PSA, and I'm not going to say that a man is a plan, because at the end of the day, you know, relying on another human being to be your plan, it has its consequences, because people can be gone in the blink of an eye, and people can change and circumstances can change. But I also don't think that it is appropriate for her now, having gone through this relationship, to say that, oh, I'll never rely on a man, because yeah, you can't rely on a guy like this, because he is getting you to make a decision from a place of instability, meaning that you can't trust his character. You can't trust him to be a good leader. This does not mean that women can't rely on their partners. Women can't rely on a man. There's a lot of extremely dependable men in this world. There's a lot of women who have children who depend on their man, and they are completely fine. They have successful, healthy relationships. The men treat them as an equal partner because they are doing labor within the household. So you can rely on a man. when it is a healthy man, when it is a man who is not lying to you, when it's a man who's not asking for money every single month, when it is a man who has not lied to you about his family and his upbringing and all of that stuff, you can rely on men. When it's a man who's actually coming from a healthy place, you can rely on a man. In this case, she shouldn't have relied on this man because, I mean, she's even been filtering out the relationship to her closest friends and her family, and still no one fully knows the extent of this relationship. So, once again, she knew that this was a dumb decision. Her intuition was telling her this is a dumb decision, just like putting Portugal on her credit card was a dumb decision. And she decided to push past her intuition. And as a woman, when you do that, you screw yourself over. Yes, the man is at fault for scamming her and for emotionally manipulating her and for taking her through this, but there is also personal responsibility when you feel something is off as a woman and you decide to ignore it and ignore it and ignore it. That's on you as well. And that's not me victim blaming. That's me saying, hey, there is personal responsibility in the decisions that you're making as well. And she's acknowledged, like, this was a dumb decision. Yeah. So that should not lead to this broad statement that never rely on men, because there's a lot of amazing men out there who do provide for their families and they're very healthy. This is never rely on a man like this. Never get in a relationship with a man like this. Never marry a man like this. Never agree to be boyfriend and girlfriend with a man like this. Never fly out to meet a man that you've only met once without air tags. Like, this could have stopped right at the beginning. This could have stopped right at the beginning.
Y'all don't have to tell me. And so we go to Portugal, come back to Denmark, and we're in Denmark for maybe a day, and then we travel back to Dallas. And at this point, your girl is hurting financially, hurting, because now I'm accruing like a little bit of credit card debt. My savings is like nothing. And at this point, I'm fully trusting him, and I believe him when he says, we are going to overcome this circumstance very, very, very soon. And keep in mind, at this point, I have not caught this man in a single lie. And obviously, I gave out my trust way too easily. But in my mind, I was thinking, why should I question him when he's never given me a reason to?
What?
Which is crazy, because I feel like he was giving me all the reasons.
He's given her all the reasons to.
But we go back to Dallas, and I remember...
Okay. It really isn't sitting well with me that she's saying, I've never caught him in a single lie. Yes, you did. He explained to you about the relationship with his family, the dynamic within his like with his sister, and you noted that that was inconsistent. He's apparently talking to his little sister all the time, and then you go in person and they barely speak to each other. Okay, that's not an overt lie, but that's you verifying, once again, the verification component, that there is an inconsistency between his actions and what he's telling you in person and the reality. What do you mean you've never caught him in a lie? Oh my goodness.
His sister and her boyfriend came to visit us for a week. And we had a good time with them, but I felt like he was super annoyed with them the entire time. He was complaining. He was just like, I just feel like they're being super cheap. They don't want to do anything. And it just felt like, again, I thought him and his sister would be a lot closer. It was weird. So we have a great trip with them visiting us. And then
I love when I make a point and then she just verifies it. I know it's not like an overt lie, like it's not an in-your-face lie, but you are noticing a huge inconsistency with how he describes the relationship with his family and how they actually are. Also, that whole, oh, he's so humble. Have you noticed how that humble trait disappears every single time that he's with his friends and his family? Even before then, when he was like, oh, I'm sorry that we're staying in a place that's not as nice, da 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 da. Where's that humble trait? If you guys are God-fearing people, where is that humble trait? That humble trait seems to disappear anytime that there's this need to keep up appearances around, like with his family. Obviously, his family comes from humble beginnings. I'm sure that his family, they're just normal people, and he's been, once again, falling into that grandiose, like trying to project that grandiose kind of lifestyle that he's living. You're seeing these inconsistencies, but girl, you're so in love that you just don't want to acknowledge the reality.
We go to Miami and meet up with his best friend and his girlfriend. And this was the best friend he was with whenever I met him in Croatia. So we're in Miami, and for the most part, we're using my funds for this trip because he's obviously put a lot of his money into most of his money into this escrow account, and he paid for a little bit of stuff, but he didn't have a whole lot. And I'm expecting this money to hit like any day now. So a couple of days after Miami, we went to Denmark to celebrate his mom's 70th birthday. We had promised her we would go, so we actually booked a round trip flight from Copenhagen when we came back home in June. So now it's August of 2023, and we're in Denmark. And I remember we're at his parents' house, and he comes to me. He's like, "Hey, I just got off the phone with the IRS, and they said they flagged the transaction from the apartment complex." And at first, I'm like pissed. I'm like, I asked you if this was going to be a problem. He's like, it's not going to be a problem. They're probably just going to take out like some taxes, not the full amount. They just need to review it, and then we'll figure it out. But I'm not concerned. You should be concerned either, even though I was super concerned. He said they set a hearing date for September 10th. At this point, it's the middle of August. So I'm like, okay, so now I have to be struggling for another month. And so I'm frustrated, but he's also like trying to calm me down, but also like gaslighting me for feeling the way I'm feeling. And so I'm just, all my emotions, I'm just stuffing them in all the way. So we celebrate his mom's 70th birthday, and this is when I meet like his entire extended family, like dad and mom's siblings, all their friends. And I meet the older sister, and she's there. At this point, she's pregnant with her second child. She's there with her first child. I meet her, and she is just such a nice, kind, wonderful human. And I just can't picture her being this evil, crazy woman that beats his mom. And so I remember just feeling a little at odds about that, but you know, I'm still fully trusting my ex 100%. So a couple.
No, no. Because this all could have been avoided if you met the family before you chose to marry this guy, let alone date him. Usually with, at least in my experience, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I find with narcissistic, more manipulative people, if there is one person in their family that they apparently have this horrendous relationship with, that the reason for that is usually because that's the person that calls them out on their BS and holds them accountable and will not let them get away with things. So at minimum, when you guys first went to go and visit the family, you should have pushed to meet the older sister. Also, hey, the older sister actually exists, so look at that. But I'm surprised, like, I know that she was like, oh, like, it was like the elephant in the room, like, they don't really talk about the sister. I would have still asked the mom about the sister. And you might be like, oh, Elaine, like, that's so awkward. Like, if he's saying that they have a bad relationship with the sister, like, why would you bring it up? Because at the end of the day, you still need to protect yourself as a woman. You decide to marry this man. You ended up meeting the family after you married this man. And you still didn't ask about the sister. And now you're meeting the older sister and realizing that, hey, like, she's nothing like he actually described. And I bet you anything it's probably because she's the one who actually holds him accountable to his BS and will probably call out his BS. I'm not surprised. And like I said, I've been in a narcissistic abuse relationship before, so this is all, I'm like, dang, this could have been my life. By the grace of God, I got out, but holy.
Days after his mom's birthday, we're all hanging out at his parents' house and we're grilling. And I remember we all start to notice kind of around the same time that his dad does not look like he's doing well. And we're starting to get a little bit concerned. And that's when my ex's mom makes the decision, like, we need to take him to the hospital. And so we pack his bags, we load him up, we go to the hospital, and I'm freaking out because I don't know if things can take a drastic turn or not. And so we're waiting at the hospital, waiting to see what the doctors will say, and I will continue on in part 12. The Danish Deception, part 12.
Okay, I'm going to do a quickie 5-minute break just so I can use the bathroom and make some tea. 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm gonna pop on some music and we will BRB before we continue on to part 12.
I cry aloud
lift up my voice for mercy. I pour out before him my complaint. Before him I tell my trouble. Before him I lay it all bare. When my spirit grows faint within me, it is you who wash my way. In the path where I walk, they have hidden a snare for me. They have hidden a snare for me. I cry aloud to the Lord. I lift up my voice to the Lord for mercy. I pour out before him my complaint. Before him I tell my trouble. When my spirit grows faint within me, it is you who watch over my way. In the path where I walk, people have hidden a snare for me. Look and see, there is no one at my right hand, no one is concerned for me. Look and see, there is no one at my right hand, no one is concerned for me. I cry to you, Lord, I say you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Listen to my cry, for I am in desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. Set me free from my prison, that I may praise your name. Then the righteous will gather about me because of your goodness to me. Hear my prayer, oh Lord. Listen to my plea. Answer me because you are faithful and righteous. Don't put your servant on trial, for no one is innocent before you. My enemy has chased me, he has knocked me to the ground, and forces me to live in darkness like those in the grave. I am losing all hope. I am paralyzed with fear. I am losing all hope. I am paralyzed with fear. I am losing all hope.
all my enemies and destroy all my foes. For I am your servant. For I am your servant. For I am your servant. I am trusting you. I cry aloud to the Lord. I lift up my voice for mercy. I pour out before him my complaint. Before him I tell my trouble. Before him I lay it all bare. It is you who watch my way in the path where I walk. They have hidden the snare for me. Look and see, there is no one, no one at my right hand. No one is concerned for me. There is no one at my right hand. No one is concerned for me. I have no refuge. No one cares for my life. I cry to the Lord. I say, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Listen to my cry, for I am in desperate need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. Set me free from my prison, that I may praise your name. Then the righteous will gather about me, because of your goodness to me.
It would help if I remember to actually unmute my microphone. But let's get back to it. If you took a break with me, I hope that you enjoyed your break. I ended up getting some tea. I'm making the spearmint tea, but I also added ginger juice, lemon juice, and carrot juice because we've been a little bit sick, as I told you in the first stream. So just trying to get my antioxidants in, and then I'll take my supplements a little bit later on once I finish my tea. My tea is just on my mug warmer that's below me. But that's enough of my silliness. If you are co-working with me, then set your timer. Let's do another work session while we watch part 12.
So we are in Denmark at this point, and we just took his dad to the hospital, and I'm freaking out, very worried, don't know what's going on. After the doctors do some testing, they basically determine that he's still dealing with blood poisoning and he has like really high infection numbers, but they're not super concerned. And so
I didn't realize that this was actually part of the truth. Okay. I wish she would have told us at the beginning, like, oh yeah, this is actually true. But okay, so the dad is actually sick. He wasn't just making that up.
we all take a deep breath and we're happy that it's not as serious as we thought it was going to be. Okay. And so after a couple days, he's released from the hospital, and it's now time for me to head back to the States. And so obviously I'm feeling all these emotions as I'm leaving. I'm sad because I'm leaving him because, again, we are still very much in love with each other, want to be with each other 24/7. So the goodbyes are still really, really tough. And at this point, I didn't know when he was going to be coming back to Dallas because he had a couple different work meetings going on. And so I fly back to Dallas, and obviously feeling all the financial stress. Like, this is probably one of the roughest moments of our relationship, especially because we weren't together physically. So the day of his meeting with the IRS, I remember I was a big ball of nerves. Like, I couldn't even sleep that night. You have to keep in mind that I go to bed and I wake up knowing that I'm waking up to news. I don't know if it's good or bad. So I wake up and I call him. I go,
that is a horrendous headspace to be in, where you just, like, day to day, you don't know what you're going to be hearing in terms of, like, financial aspects of your relationship and stuff like that. I've been there, and I'm still navigating that aspect from my own decision to leave, like, my full-time income and then run my business full-time. And it is definitely one of the hardest spots to be in, but it is definitely made worse when the financial strain is because of your partner's horrendous financial decisions. So I can't even imagine what headspace she was in. I would be so anxiety riddled.
How did it go? He goes, worse than I possibly could have imagined. I almost like expected it to have gone bad. I'm like, if it had gone good, I would have been more surprised. I'm like, what now? He said, well, they scheduled a second hearing for my business account January 10th. And currently my personal account is also under investigation. So they have put a hold on my assets for the next couple months while they continue to investigate. And there's another hearing scheduled for my personal account in October. So basically they froze his assets and told him that he only had like a specific amount of allowance that he was able to use from his money every single month. And I have never heard anything like this. I've never known anyone that have had their assets frozen, and I didn't know how this worked. And obviously at this point, I'm definitely feeling like all the red flags. I'm like, this does not make any sense. But okay, there's not a whole lot I can do. And at this point, I'm just like, the only thing I can do is trust him. There's no one in my life that I was talking to about any of this, because
that's the problem.
I felt a lot of need to protect him and he wanted me to protect his image. And I remember telling him, like, I really want to talk to my family about this. Like, this is really stressing me out. And he's like, no, don't. Like, they're going to view me differently.
Okay. He wanted me to protect his image is a wild statement. It is a wild statement. I can understand, even in a healthy relationship, protecting your partner's image, because there's certain things that you go through that makes sense for you guys to just handle by yourself, and like, you move on from it, and that's fine. But in this situation where you are in so much financial like strain, you are struggling, why wouldn't, like, I understand egos, finances can be really, really hard to talk about, especially growing, like, with him, like, growing up from a affluent family, which I'm sure we all know now, by now, is probably BS. Like, I can understand it would be hard to come to that moment of, like, being able to put aside your ego and just being like, okay, yeah, like, let's tell your family. But when you realize how much strain and how much stress this is putting on your wife, because they are married right now, and you aren't even going to give her the the emotional release of being able to discuss this with her friends and family, that is the most selfish effing man ever. Because he sees how this is impacting you. He sees how this is putting a strain on your relationship. He sees how this is making you anxious. And he's not even going to give you that emotional release of being able to discuss it openly with your friends and your family. This man does not love her. Like, this man does not love her. Truly does not love her. Because if you see your partner so stressed out about something and they're like, hey, I really want to talk to my friends and family about it, like, they might have their reservations about it, but a man who truly loves you is like, yeah, obviously she needs someone to like talk to this, someone else to talk to this about. And I can understand, because this is a really hard situation to be in. They might not be the happiest about it, because yeah, it can impact the people's view of him. But most people have gone through financial hardship of some point. They're usually not going to be like, oh my goodness, like what the heck is happening? Well, in this situation they would, because like you lent him how much money, and this is the first time we're hearing about it. But in most situations, most people would understand, because most people have gone through financial hardship to some extent. So like, just like her saying this, and I don't know if this is exactly how he phrased it to her, but like the fact that he was more worried about protecting his image than protecting her sanity and making sure that her mental space was good, that says everything that you need to know about him. It's about him. He doesn't care about how this is impacting you, how you need to have a release outside of him. Selfish AF.
So he very much talked me out of being able to disclose this stuff with my close people. So the last thing I want to do is just ramble about shit that does not matter. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. Not a whole lot happened between September of 2023 and November of 2023. The only thing big that happened was that I wanted him to be in Dallas. He wanted to be in Dallas. So I booked him a flight to come to Dallas. I am at this point fully financially supporting us. Like, I think he's getting like maybe like $4,000 a month that the IRS is like allowing him to use. And keep in mind, the Danish IRS is not called IRS. It's called SCAT, some other stuff. I can't even pronounce it. So that's why I'm saying the Danish IRS. So just a little side note. But October comes around. He's now in Dallas. He's been in Dallas for about a month. And we're struggling financially, but still so deliriously happy and in love, which is insane. But I cared about.
Once again, it's not insane. Oh my goodness. It's not insane, because when you are in a healthy relationship, emotions, you can have duality to your emotions. I fell in love when I was grieving the loss of my dad. As human beings, we are not one-sided beings. We can have the same, like, multiple opposing emotions existing within our body. You can be stressed out about the finances and still be in love with your partner. People go through this all the time. And it is a privilege to be experiencing this later on in life. But a lot of people, they grew up with watching their parents struggle financially and still loved and appreciated everything that their parents were able to provide for them. So it is not absolutely insane to be like, oh yeah, like even though we're struggling financially, like I was still in love with it. Ma'am, that's probably well over 50% of relationships where their finances aren't where they need it to be, but they're still like very heavily in love and still grinding to get out of their situations or to improve their situations. So I just want to affirm that if you are in a situation or in a relationship where you guys are really financially struggling, but you still really love the relationship and you're treated well, and the financial struggle, it makes sense. It wasn't because of you getting scammed. That's normal. That's a normal part of life. It's not insane. In this situation, it's insane because her intuition has been telling her of the red flags. She's seeing the red flags now, and she's still deciding to push through. That's why it's insane. But under normal circumstances, going through financial hardship or any hardship within your relationship and still being madly in love with that person is normal. Humans are dynamic beings. We can't experience opposing emotions in the same body, in the same day, in the same hour.
About the money, but I loved him more than that. And our relationship was just based on this deep love that we had. And so the money was like almost
your relationship to from your perspective.
And so basically October comes around, he has the hearing, I'm nervous, and it ends up working out in our favor, and his account opens up in October. And I'm so happy. He like immediately sent me, I think like $9,000. And And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. Like we're gonna be able to like come out of this. And he said his business account, that was where the 10 million was supposed to be. That was supposed to be opened up not opened up. He was supposed to have a hearing set for January 10th. So that was when we were gonna figure out what was gonna happen. And I remember asking him, like, what do you think is gonna happen? He's like, well, I've been like looking at research and there's a chance that they might put in like an 18-month to 24-month hold. I go, 18-month hold? And he said, yeah, but I don't think that's what it's gonna be, but you know, we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. Again, have never caught him in a lie at this point. And so basically,
yes, you
his
have.
personal accounts opened up. So we're alleviated of a little bit of the financial stress, but it's still like a little bit stressful because obviously I had quit my job and I was doing real estate full time. And let me tell you all, I was working my ass off, but it almost was like I was restarting my career because I hadn't been working in real estate much for that whole entire year. So I was 100% relying on him for maybe like the month of November, I would say. But the rest of the months, I was still finding a way to make ends meet. I was still making a little bit of money from like doing like campaigns on Instagram, other things. So I still was like making a little bit. So December rolls around and his 90 days of being in the States is about to be up. So he went back to Denmark the beginning of December. And so my plan was to go and meet him in 2 weeks. So we're gonna spend 2 weeks apart. And so he's in Denmark for about a week and he sends me a message and he says, my dad's back in the hospital. And I was like, no, no. And so at this point, the plan was for me to go to Denmark and spend Christmas with his family. And this is gonna be my first European Christmas. And I was so excited for the Christmas markets and all the things. But obviously that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is making sure he's okay, making sure his dad gets better. And so I'm going through all these emotions. Number one, I'm missing him. Number two, he's dealing with all of this and we have each other's location. So I can see that he's physically at the hospital in his hometown. So I can confirm that. And so obviously the plan was for me to come in 2 weeks. And he asked me, he's like, what are your thoughts if I move up your flight for you to come in a week? And I said, obviously I need to tie up some things for work, but I would love to be there for you. And he said, okay, like then let's do that. And so I moved up my flight. My sister was watching my dog and I leave. And at this point, the plan is for me to be gone for now 3 weeks. I was originally gonna be gone for 2 weeks. Now it's 3 weeks. And we're still feeling a lot of financial stress. But at this point, like I had like 3 deals in the pipeline. So there's money that's gonna be coming in. But obviously we're still stressed out because like money's coming in. That does not mean the money's there. So we were like up to date on like bills, but still 100% stressing out. And so originally the plan was my ex said that he really wanted to go stay at this hotel called Hotel d'Angleterre in Copenhagen for 1 night before we went to his hometown to like be with his family. Cause his mom had said, I want you guys to just enjoy 1 day in Copenhagen in the Christmas markets before you come home. And so we were like, okay, we'll do that. And so he hadn't booked any of the hotels or anything. And like the day before I'm flying out to Denmark to go see him, he tells me that he just got charged this huge insurance payment for his 2 apartments. Obviously he sold the apartment complex.
What is
and
that?
his 2 singular apartments that are rented out. He got hit with an insurance payment.
Oh my gosh.
And basically it wiped out like everything he had. So again, I'm annoyed. At this point, I'm just like sensing that a lot of this stuff is just bullshit. But I also am just like, it's the holidays, his dad's in the hospital. So I almost feel bad like coming at him whenever he's already dealing with so much. And he had said that his mom had given him money for like hotels, dinners, things in Copenhagen. She was fully aware of like the insurance payment and the financial position he was in, and she wanted to help. And again, she just wanted us to enjoy Copenhagen for 1 day before we came back. So we take the train back to Aalborg, and a good family friend picked us up from the train station. We went home, we had dinner, and then immediately we go to the hospital, see the dad, and like he looks sick, but he looks like he's like in decent spirits. And they said he was gonna be home for Christmas. And so we were really, really happy about that. So over the course of the next couple days, we're going to the hospital like 2 times, 2, sometimes 3 times a day, just to like take his mom there, check on the dad, make sure everything's going okay. And then the dad comes home and like, obviously he's super weak and we're like helping him around. But regardless, we had a wonderful Christmas. And even though like we didn't have a lot of money, and I remember like I got him very, very cheap Christmas gifts that year, and same thing for me. I actually told him like, you don't even have to buy me anything. Like the gift is being here with your family. And he got me a few small things, but Regardless, it was fine. And the day after Christmas, we had gone to a champagne party at one of his friends' homes, and I was excited. It wasn't very often that we like went and like hung out with like friends of his. It was very, very rare. And so we went and we were having a good time. And obviously I didn't know a whole lot of people that were there, but his best friend, the one that he was with when I met him in Croatia, he was there. And we were just chatting outside, and before we had left the house, my ex had told me, I really don't want to go out tonight. Like, I just want to go to this party and then come home. And I said, that's totally fine. And so we're at the party, we're outside just hanging out. I'm talking to his best friend. My ex is inside the home, and his best friend tells me, he goes, you guys should come out tonight. Like, please come out. And I was like, honestly, I'm down to go out, but my ex doesn't want to go out. And that was really weird for him because he always is down to like go out and have a good time. So I already thought it was a little strange. And then his best friend looks at me, he goes, oh, he probably doesn't want to run into any of his enemies from his past gambling addiction.
And this is why you always meet the friends and the family before you decide to be someone's wife, let alone the girlfriend. Because they will share info like this with you, especially if they see that you have good intentions with their friend or their son. Girl.
I looked at him and I said, what gambling addiction?
Mm-hmm.
And his best friend looks at me and goes, you didn't know that he had a gambling addiction? Mm-hmm. And we will pick up the rest in part 13. The Danish Deception, part 13. So just to recap, I was spending Christmas with my ex and his family in Denmark. And the day after Christmas, we go to a champagne party. And that's where his best friend told me that he used to have a gambling addiction. So when I hear this, I am just full panic mode. I'm questioning everything. And I'm freaking out. I remember it was so cold in Denmark and I was outside, not even wearing a jacket, and I was sweating because I was just like so overheated. And so I asked him, I go, I had no idea. And at this point, his best friend is like mad. Like, he's angry. He's like, are you serious? Like, you didn't know? And I was like, yeah, no, I had no idea. He was like, he told me that he told you. I go, he absolutely did not tell me. And I've loaned him a lot of money over the course of a year and a half. And he said he owed me money. I was like, he was like, he paid me back the money he owed me, but he did take money from me at one point. And yeah, it was bad. It was like 10 years ago. And so immediately I'm like, can you go inside the house and get him?
Yep.
So he gets my ex walks out. He goes, what's wrong, babe? And I said, do you have a fucking gambling addiction? I remember I screamed it in his face. I did not even care that I was causing a scene. I was just so mad. And he looks at me, he goes, I mean, I did, but it was like 10 years ago, which did check with what his best friend said, that it was 10 years ago. I was young, I was dumb, I was stupid. I would never, ever go back to that. And I'm like, well, let's play back all the times that I've given you money. Mm-hmm. Tell me how to make this make sense. And he's like, I have truly just had a year of so many downs, and I promise you, I would never in a million years gamble away your money.
I'm just going to say a lie of omission is still a lie. So now you actually can't trust anything that he's saying. I do not care. That is a really huge part of someone's life to leave out, because that is a part of someone's life that determines whether that's something that you want to deal with or not, addiction of any form. And the fact that he purposely withheld that from her despite telling the best friend that he had told her shows his true colors. And you might be like, well, he might have been embarrassed. Yeah, but you chose to marry someone, and you didn't tell someone before they married you, before they decide to commit their life to you, that this was part of your history. So she made a decision based on a lie because she didn't know your full true character. A lie of omission is still a lie. And for those of you who don't know, a lie of omission is when you intentionally withhold information. This was very deliberate, intentional withholding of information from her. And this is once again why you meet the friends and the family before you get married.
And I don't know what to do to prove it. And I was like, well, this insurance payment that you just told me about, I'm gonna need to see proof of that. At this point, I'm like, I need to see proof. I've been drinking all night, and we get home and I'm just ripping him to shreds. Like, and honestly, he's taking it. He tried a little bit to gaslight me, and I just was like, you're not gonna gaslight me. You're in the wrong. You lied. You have an addiction, and you didn't tell your wife, and you're the problem.
Yep.
And so we spent a while just fighting. I actually ended up going to bed that night, and the next morning I'm obviously still very angry, very hurt. And he was working in the office in his parents' house. And so after he finishes working, I'm like, we need to go for a walk, because obviously his parents were home and they didn't know what was going on. And his parents are really old at this point. I just like didn't want to bring like any chaos or anything, any drama to the family, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, I should have brought the whole family into what was going on, but I guess my natural instinct was to protect him.
Keep in mind, she's married to him at this point. So I am of the belief that if you have married into a family, they are now your family. These conversations are not easy to have, but you should be having these conversations with this family, especially considering that she's now close with the mom. Do you have her number? Could you have a phone call with her? Like, there's no, like, I understand that she was trying not to add stress onto their plates, but look at how stressed out that you are. And this is where I said selflessness without discernment is you being foolish, because yes, you might be a selfless person, but when it comes to you being so selfless that it is a detriment to you and it starts harming you, that is not healthy. She displays so many unhealthy patterns within this series that just shows it's not like a lack of maturity necessarily. Well, some aspects it's a lack of maturity, especially in like the dating sense, considering she never had a long-term relationship. But there's just this, it feels like there's this kind of skirting accountability onto her selflessness trait, when sometimes you being selfless is you actually harming yourself. And I can't think of the words to like how to put it into words, but essentially it is not a selfless act to be withholding all of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes in your relationship from the family that you've married into, because they could have helped. They could have told you about his past. It's great that the best friend eventually told you about his past, but all of this stuff could have been avoided or shortcutted if you were having conversations with your friends and your family, or his family, once you got introduced into that. When it comes to a marriage, I do truly believe like you try to work a lot of things internally, but you bet your booty, like if we are really struggling, we're not able to navigate what is currently happening within the dynamic, I have a support system I'm going to go to. I have a church marriage committee that I can go to seek extra support. And my partner is not going to stop me from seeking that additional support, even if it's just for the emotional support, because there's some situations where it just takes time for you guys to be able to resolve it. But my partner loves me enough that he is not going to stop me from getting additional support and from sharing with the family, especially when we're truly going through it. That's what a healthy dynamic looks like. Not you feeling like you can't tell everyone anything. Not you feeling like you can't share things with people because you're worried about piling onto their plate. I did mention in the previous reaction that we did for parts 1 and 8, like, yeah, there's sometimes when you do withhold some things, but this is a situation where it's gotten to the boiling point, and this is where you need to start sharing, even if it is adding onto the plate of other people, because this is a situation where you two aren't navigating it well by yourselves. So you need external input. And I just wonder, like, if she had told people more openly beforehand, where like the people that are closest to her, how much of this could we have avoided? They probably would have never gotten married.
And so we go on a walk, and obviously I'm angry, and he like pulls up this document showing me the invoice from the insurance, and it aligns with like the amount that he told me that he had to pay.
Documents can be faked, by the way. This one might be true because he has sprinkled, that's what a lot of like manipulators will do. There will be truth within the lies, but documents can be faked very easily, especially in the world of AI.
And so I'm still angry, hurt, all the feelings. And he goes, look at me right now. And I looked at him. He goes, do you really think
You are? But is honesty not one of your core values for your relationship? Communication was a non-negotiable. You purposely withheld information from me. You lied to me about what the relationship between you and your sister looks like, first of all. And now I'm finding out that you had a gambling addiction that you purposely withheld from me. You lied to your best friend and told him that you told me. You purposely, intentionally withheld information from me. The moment that I know that, what else are you capable of hiding from me? What do you mean you've never seen a side of him? This is a side.
Intentionally or unintentionally. Like, I feel like he always had my best interest.
He didn't have your best interest at heart when he purposely withheld information from me about his past gambling addiction. He didn't have your best intentions at heart when he asked you to not talk to your friends and family about something, that the financial strain that this is putting on you.
At heart, and that he was just a guy going through hard times. So maybe it's because I'm brainwashed at this point, but I end up deciding to believe him. And especially because he showed me proof. I also asked to see his bank statements and everything checked out. And so I let it go. And I said, okay, well, do not ever lie to me again. You're my husband, I'm your wife, and you're gonna be honest with me going forward. And if I catch you in a lie again, like, we're gonna have some problems. Already had plans to go to Budapest.
The cognitive dissonance is actually effing insane, because she was saying, like, I haven't never seen a side of him like that was like that didn't have like best interest at heart, however she phrased it. And then she follows that, like, ends the conversation with, like, do not ever lie to me again. Make it make sense. Has he shown you only good sides, or has he shown you a good side and now you're seeing a bad side and you're choosing to ignore it? Do not ever lie to me again. Is that a man who has your best intentions at heart if he intentionally lied to you and his best friend?
Us for New Year's, that following New Year's, and we found some really cheap flights and a cheap hotel. Honestly, we didn't spend a whole lot of money on that trip, and that's part of the reason why we went. But we went there for New Year's, had a good time. As you can probably imagine, I paid for that entire trip. After Budapest, we went back to Copenhagen for one day, and then I went back to Dallas, and he stayed in Copenhagen because he had a bunch of work meetings. I'm home and obviously stressing about this upcoming hearing with the Danish IRS, SCAT, or whatever it's called. And I knew it was on January 10th. And I kind of wanted to wait and see if he would bring it up, because a part of me was like, I feel like he's lying about all of this. And so January 9th comes around, and long and behold, he says, oh, my hearing is tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, he's telling the truth about that. Because if he had just like breezed past the date, I would have felt like, okay, he's lying about this whole everything, the business account. And so he tells me the next day he has a hearing. Again, I go to sleep, ball of nerves, wake up the next morning, ask him, how did the hearing go? And he said, they ended up deciding to put an 18-month hold on my account. And I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating. Like, I'm just so frustrated. I feel like nothing is going our way. And he said, listen, it's only 18 months. You're doing well at this point. Like, I was doing well with real estate. And he's like, I have my job, and I don't foresee any crazy things happening, so we'll be fine. Don't worry, we'll be okay. And obviously at that point, I wanted to trust him fully, but I also didn't. So I told him I need to see proof of this. And that's when he shows me email confirmation from his lawyer confirming that there was an 18-month hold on this account. And I saw the email. Fast forward to February 10th, it's our anniversary. And so we decided we're gonna go out that night. And I remember we like talked originally about maybe going on a vacation, but then we ended up canceling the vacation just because we wanted to save some money. And so we ended up just being here for our anniversary. And so we went to a nice restaurant here in Dallas, one of our favorite ones. And we go to dinner, and he's ordering like really expensive wine. Like, I think he ordered like a $400 or $500 bottle of wine. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, it's our anniversary. And I'm like, I know, but we need to be saving money. And then afterwards, one of my good friends was at a cocktail bar and said, hey, you guys should come and meet us. And we were like, sure. I asked him if he was down. He said, yeah, let's do it. So we go, and we go to this cocktail bar. My friend is there. She's celebrating a birthday of another one of her friends, someone that not super close friends with, and they're with like a big group of girls. So I just went to go say hi to her, see her, say hello. And before I know it, my ex is like, I'm gonna buy everyone around us shots. And we're at a cocktail lounge, it's like kind of expensive. And I'm like, is that really necessary? Like, I feel like, and I looked around and everyone had a drink in their hand. I'm like, we don't need to do that. He's like, oh no, it's her birthday, let's do it. I'm like, you don't even know who that girl is. Like, why does it matter? And I remember just being super annoyed because I knew he had just spent like $800 at dinner, and we're at this cocktail lounge, and I realized like he's running up a bill here, and he's just chugging old fashions. And he wasn't the biggest drinker. Like, he drank, and sometimes he would get like really drunk, but it was like pretty rare. And most times he could drink and handle his alcohol very well. And so tonight was really weird because I'm like, we're celebrating our anniversary, and you would think that he just like wants to be intentional with our time spending it together, and instead it just feels like he's just slamming these drinks. And I was so confused by why he felt the need to get this drunk. And so he's having a conversation with my friend, and I'm like seeing him, and he's like slurring his words, and then he's talking to my friend, and I see like a little bit of spit come from his mouth and like land on like her shoulder, and she like wiped it away. And I was like, what the fuck is that? That's disgusting. And so he's drank his like third old fashioned, and then I look up and he's ordering another one. And I look at him, I say, are you sure you should order another drink? And he looks at me, he goes, who do you think you are to tell me when I like what I can and can't drink? And I said, excuse me, I'm just saying, do you need to have another drink? Like, do we need to get belligerent tonight? And before I know it, he's basically just going off on me, saying that I'm disrespecting him and I shouldn't be telling him that he needs to slow down and that he's a man. And I'm just confused because we've never really like had arguments like this before. And I'm like, what's your problem? And he's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just go. And I was like, okay, let's go. So we get into the Uber, about to go home, and I'm like, what is your problem? He's like, I just don't like it when you disrespect me in public like that. And I was like, I didn't disrespect you in public. It's not like I yelled, hey, you're drunk, stop drinking. I literally told you right next to you, like there was no one else around. I just said, hey, maybe you should slow down on the drinking. Y'all, I don't know what happened next, but this huge, intense fight spiraled out. We get into the house and we are now screaming at each other. He's telling me that I disrespected him. And now I'm getting mad because I'm like, you're drunk right now. Like, what's going on? Like, you never behave like this. The fight escalates and he ends up walking out of the home. And I'm like, where are you going? And he said, don't worry about me. I'm going to get a hotel tonight and then we're going to see where we stand. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And we will continue on in part 14. The Danish...
There are so many things I could say, but okay. Yeah, the financial irresponsibility again popping up would have been well, like why are we buying everyone shots? Okay. Let's continue.
Deception part 14. I have Smokey here because
oh, another thing that popped into my head that he did lie about. Well, yeah, the whole dog, his ex-girlfriend thing, when like she hard launched him and all of these Danish people like were viewing her stories. Like the writing has been on the wall for so freaking long. He has been showing who he is in bits and pieces, and Delulu love.
Really need emotional support to tell this part of the series. Okay. So he leaves the house, he goes to a hotel, and I'm so baffled and confused. And like the messages he's sending me are just so insane. And this is a side to him that I've never seen before. And I remember I called my best friend Sarah that was living in Germany at the time because of the time difference. She was awake, and I'm just bawling my eyes out. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And like, she comforted me a lot, but I just was hurt and upset and angry. Just why is he treating me like this? And so the next day he says that he's going to come back and get some more of his things and go back to the hotel. And so I'm like, we're still doing this? And he comes over and I'm like, can we have a conversation? He's like, what's there to talk about? Like, I don't know what to talk about. Like, you disrespected me last night. And at this point, I'm like, let's have a conversation about it. And he's like, it's being extremely stubborn about the situation. But over time, he finally is like, okay, it's fine. Like, I'll unpack my bags, I'll stay. And I'm obviously pissed off that he just dropped $1,000 on a hotel room, which he spent like $1,500 the night before for our anniversary, and just dropped another $1,000 on a hotel room. It's just like spending money so unnecessarily, and it's making me so mad. But I was like, I just want to keep the peace, so I let it go. And even though I'm still very confused at why he's behaving this way. So a couple days go by and I get a message from one of my really, really good girlfriends, and she says, hey, I've been wanting to reach out to you for some time, but did you know that your ex owes my husband $200,000? And I remember I was like eating lunch. I was next to my ex, I was eating lunch, and I'm just like, I read this message and I couldn't breathe. Like, I literally could not breathe. And I look at him and I go, what the fuck is this? And he was like, oh, well, you know, we were working this crypto deal where we were selling watches at a profit, and he's being super picky about how much profit he wants to get and trying to find the right buyer, but I'll find it and we'll be fine. And I was like, so you kept it, you have this money that you owe this man and you lied to me about it? He's like, well, money's currently in watches and it's gonna be fine. Like, I just need to sell them. And so I was like, okay, even though like it's like red flags after red flags, I'm like, there's something up. So I'm really upset at this point, because you don't borrow money from a friend, this amount of money from a friend, and not discuss it with your wife. And so I told him, I'm like, I'm really upset with you that like you didn't talk to me about this, but you know, it's fine. Well, I didn't say it's fine. I just said, this is unacceptable. And I remember that day we really didn't communicate much with each other. We weren't like screaming or fighting with each other. I just like really decided that I wanted to distance myself from him. What he did not know was that I was going to message my friend separately and ask her to ask her husband if the story that was communicated to me by my ex was true. So I asked her, and she responds to me and says, no, this is not correct.
Yep.
And at this point, it's the husband that's communicating. And for the purposes of this playlist and series, I'm going to refer to these individuals as Crypto and Crypto's wife. So Crypto is the one that's responding, and he's saying, no, none of this is true. He told me he had the watches sold a long time ago. He told me he was going to transfer the money, and I've been asking him, and he's been giving me the turnaround time. And you know, when his dad was in the hospital, I was trying to be respectful, but also like, you know, this is affecting my work because he works very much in crypto. And so I'm reading these messages and I'm still reading it, and I get to the end and he said, and just so you know, I had someone look into the wallet that I sent money to, and it's been linked to a gambling website since 2023. And that's when I realized that he was gambling. And in that moment, I just fully collapsed to the ground. I remember I was in the kitchen and it was like I couldn't even stand anymore. Like, I just collapsed to the ground and I'm just like crying. He's like, what is it? I'm like, you're lying to me, you're gambling. And he was like, no, I'm not, like, still lying. And I'm just like, just tell me the truth. Be honest with me for once in your life, tell me the truth. And he's like, I promise you I'm not gambling. And then I grab his face and I pull it to me and I scream in his face. I said, tell me the fucking truth. And he looks at me and he goes, okay, I've been gambling. And honestly, I was just quiet. Like, it was just 30 seconds of just silence. And this next part is gonna make you all a little confused, but I actually had a showing 30 minutes after that exact moment. So I went upstairs, I changed, and I grabbed my keys and I left the house and I went and showed a house. And it was the most bizarre thing ever. Like, I was in front of clients smiling.
No, this is actually very normal. Especially if you're someone who falls into hyper independence. Well, it's not very normal. I shouldn't normalize that because it's not the healthiest thing. But sometimes we can use work as an escape, and sometimes you just need an escape. And sometimes you also just like, you don't want to address the reality, so you want to get back to a sense of normalcy. And work can be like the easiest distraction for a lot of us, especially if we are hyper independent people. So it's not at all surprising that she went to work and was just, I'm gonna fake it till I make it. Very, very common.
Even though
not healthy.
Everything around me felt like it was crumbling. So he's obviously texted me like, please, like, come home after your showing, like I want to have a conversation. And I'm saying, right now I just feel like I can't talk to you. So I went to a park and I called my best friend Natalie and I told her, I was like, hey, I have some news for you. She's like, what's up? You can talk to me. And I told her, I said, he has a gambling addiction and I just completely lose it. Sorry, you guys, I get emotional at this part.
Yeah.
I just completely lose it. And like, Natalie's my best friend. I love her so much. And just being able to like have someone finally to like be open and honest about what was happening made me feel so good, because I felt like I could just release everything. Yeah. And she was 100% there for me. She lives in New York, but she was like, whatever happens, I don't give a fuck about him. I give a fuck about you. So where do we go from here? And I was like, I don't know where we go. Like, I'm with this man that I love more than anything in the world. I find out he's been lying to me. I find out that he's stolen money from our friends, and I'm just like completely wrecked. I'm like, I don't know where to go from here. Yeah. And she's like, something you need to know is that this is the rest of your life. This is it. This isn't something that just goes away. This is addiction. And she had experience with a gambling addiction specifically and has seen the damage it's caused. And so she said, this is the rest of your life. Whatever you decide, I will support you, but this will be the rest of your life. And so after that, I go inside the house and he's like, I want to talk. And I'm like, I like still was not ready to talk to him. But I decided to call Crypto's wife, who's my good friend. And I talked to her on the phone, and the first thing I said, I just started bawling my eyes out. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I felt so much guilt, like, that I didn't know that all this stuff was happening, and I had no idea. And I just told her, I'm so sorry. And let me just take a moment and tell you, I don't know if Crypto and Crypto's wife are gonna come forward, but they are two of the most beautiful people I've ever known in my entire life. And after what they went through, like, they had every right to like go to the police and ruin our lives. And instead they had empathy and they had love for me. And they were just like, whatever we can do to support you, like, money comes and goes. Obviously we'll figure that out later, but what can we do to support you? And I just was like, I don't know how to be with someone that lies to me and that I don't trust. Like, I don't know what to do. But you know, at the same time, like, I got married. We said our vows, and we said in sickness and in health, and this is a sickness. And I have no experience with addiction at all. None, zero. Like, I don't even know where to begin. And so I just start doing research and like looking at like podcasts and reading books. And at this point, I'm still very much distancing myself from him. And then I look up a Gamblers Anonymous meeting, and I find one here in Dallas, and it was an open meeting happening. And I told him, I said, you know, it's still really hard for me to like talk with you, but let's go to this GA meeting. And so we go to the GA meeting. Everyone's like going around circle, telling their stories. I'm just bawling my eyes out during this whole entire thing, because I'm hearing like the saddest stories, and I'm hearing like the most beautiful success stories. And so in a way, it like made me...
I'm just going to say I am really happy that she took this step. I feel like in a situation like this, because she ended up already marrying him, and she does value marriage, it's good that she tried her best to make it work by trying to get him help. If this was boyfriend, girlfriend stuff, bounced, would have been gone. Ain't no way. But this is also the consequences of you not being forthcoming with where your relationship is at with your closest people. She's talking about how like Natalie is her best friend. Like, she's so like, why could we not bring Natalie into this? And this might have been the emotional manipulation part of the relationship. I know that we're not getting all of the insight, but we know that at one point he was asking her not to share things with her friends and her family, and that's not normal. Once again, a partner who genuinely loves you, who wants the best for you, they're going to care about your emotional well-being. And if you're saying, hey, I need to share this with someone just to get it off my chest and just to process this better, even though they might have their reservations about it, they're going to say, like, I get it, go and do it, because they want the best for you. I feel so bad for her. And at the same time, this all, like, a majority of this could have been avoided if we had been making sure that we met the family, making sure that we met the friends, and sharing the full extent of what is going on with, like, a couple of, like, your most trusted people. And she has that around her. She has a friend like Natalie. So when the decision to not share what was going on with the person that she can trust with this information, that is so freaking sad, because this could have been avoided. It sounds like Natalie's someone who has a good head on her shoulders. Like, she could have probably spotted the red flags, especially knowing that now we know that she's dealt with gambling or, like, addictions before. The resources were there for her to tap into. And this, like, if you're going to marry someone, at least have that one person that you can fully divulge things to make sure that you are not missing flags.
Understand the depth of what I was going through, but it also gave me hope. And so I, for some reason, still felt like there was, like, a lot that I didn't know about him. Like, there was stuff missing in my gut and my soul. And I kept asking him, is there anything else you need to tell me? Is there anything else you need to tell me? He said no. At this point, I am still in constant communication with Crypto and Crypto's wife. And Crypto tells me, I was wondering, how would you feel about me hiring a PI to look into his past? And I said, 100%, please do it.
Yep.
And we will continue on in part 15.
Let's go. Crypto and his wife sound oh, I love the purple on her. Yeah, Crypto and
in our relationship, I would say I was happy 90% of the time, despite the financial struggles that we were going through. And he was what I thought was a very selfless and caring individual. And the other people in my life would also attest to that. There were a lot of times that he did not have money in his account, but when he did, he was very, very generous with it. He was the type of person that would buy whatever people need, would treat them, and I viewed him as selfless. He also was the type of person that would drop anything at any time to help someone in need. So because of those reasons, I truly believed he was a good quality human. I now know that a lot of those things were self-serving, but I wanted to make a note of that so that you guys didn't think it was just, like, all bad and all, like, money exchange every single day. It was not like that at all. The other
Oh, you know what? Let her finish the disclaimers and I'll
thing
continue.
I wanted to bring up is the comments. Obviously, I've gotten some negative ones and some positive ones. I want to speak on the positive ones first. Thank you so much. I did not expect to be receiving this much empathy and compassion, and I just want to say thank you. It means the world to me. So thank you so much. And I wanted to speak on the negative ones as well. Obviously, you know, I made some choices that I deeply, deeply regret. I wouldn't be doing this series if that was not the case. Yeah. And there's not a single comment that's worse than anything that I have told myself already. Yep. Listen, I was a Black woman on The Bachelor. I have a thick skin for that reason. So these messages and these comments that are negative, it doesn't faze me at all. Honestly, I couldn't care less. I am prioritizing protecting others over my own self-preservation, and I will never regret that. But what does bother me is there are other victims that are reading these comments and they are feeling like they need to keep silent because they're worried about how other people will perceive them. And when you silence other victims, you are now giving the power back to the predators, and that is what I'm not okay with. So I challenge the people that are making the negative comments to reflect on what you're saying and to make sure we're all keeping the big picture in mind. We are trying to make sure victims can stand up and find their voice, and we can prevent this from happening to other people. That's all. Okay, I know, enough talking.
I get where she is coming from, and it's whenever someone is like saying, oh, like these are negative comments without giving like specific examples of what they're referring to, I take it with a grain of salt, because for some people accountability can also feel like hate or negativity. I witnessed this with I think it was Cruel World Happy Mind, where she did a video on Ethan Klein, and the comments that were holding her accountable for her actions, where she insinuated that Ethan Klein could be potentially a PDF file despite the fact that he has kids, and she didn't walk it back. Like, those constructive criticisms and valid critiques of her insinuating a man with a family could be potentially a PDF file, and his wife could also be, without any actual proof, she saw that as hate. So whenever someone's like I'm seeing negative comments and they're not elaborating on what their perception of a negative comment is, I do take that with a grain of salt, because there is a lot of constructive criticism that can be given for her actions, and I've been doing that throughout this entire series. And for people who are victims, as someone who's been through a narcissistic abuse relationship, I will fully admit that there were red flags that I intentionally ignored in the guise of being, oh, I'm so in love. And as a victim myself, I can fully attest to the fact that, yeah, when you get swept up, you get swept up. But there are ways to avoid or to reduce the harm that comes to you if you end up with someone like this. One of those things is making sure that you have trusted friends and family that you can talk to about this stuff. Or if you don't have friends and family, like a community like your church, they can talk to you about this stuff so that they can give you an outsider perspective, especially if you know you're someone where when you fall super hard. So it is interesting that that she mentioned that, and I can understand why it would dissuade some people from sharing their experience. But also, not everyone is meant to go on a public platform and share their experience with their abusers. There is a lot more awareness around these really unhealthy dynamics and these manipulators and these narcissists now than there ever was. So yeah, I really wish that she would have elaborated, and maybe in like follow-up videos she elaborates on the kind of comments that she's referring to, because accountability can sound like hate if you're not in the place to receive it. That's just the reality of things, right? At the beginning, another thing I want to say, at the beginning, she mentioned how there were a lot of good moments, and that's normal. Like I think we all know that mainly right now she's condensing down and focusing on like the major events that happened. And the fact that there were a lot of good moments does not mean that we put blinders on. We still, as humans, we are ingrained to see patterns. And when these patterns started popping up, even amongst all of the happiness, like she was telling us how like her intuition was kicking in, that there were things that were wrong. So I understand her being like, oh, like there were a lot of happy moments. I feel like most people, you understand that if she's telling a story about what was an abusive relationship, for lack of better terms, you know that there was a lot of happy moments, and that's usually what gets people to stay, right? But it is interesting that she felt like she had to clarify that. Maybe I didn't look at the comments or anything like that, so maybe there was a lot of people just being like, oh my gosh, if this relationship was so horrible, why did you stay? Not realizing that this is probably only like 5 to 10% of their relationship. But it's interesting that she mentioned how he was so selfless, and he would do anything for anyone. Like at the drop of a hat, whenever he had the money, he would send it. This is where I talked about selflessness without discernment is foolishness, and this would be for me a red flag. If I'm seeing someone where I know their finances are up and down, and whenever they do have the money, like they will spend it on everyone, that to me is not normal. That to me is not selflessness. That is to me is someone who's foolish. Because why aren't we saving up? We're about to get married. Like, why aren't we saving up? Why aren't we putting things away? It's great that you want to serve others, but in order to be able to serve others, you have to be able to serve yourself. You have to be able to fill your cup. You have to be serving from a place of stability. So her saying like, oh, like to like everyone around me agrees that he was super like selfless and all of that stuff. Yeah, because he was projecting an image that he wanted everyone to see. But when you put everything within the context of what was going on in your relationship, when it comes to the financial aspect, which you weren't sharing with other people, so they had a skewed view of him as well. Keep that in mind. Like she's saying, like everyone around me agrees that he was like super selfless and everything like that. Do you think that they would have had that exact same opinion of him if they knew about the financial manipulation that was going on behind the scenes? No. So we can't even take their perspective as testimony of him being like this really amazing guy, because they didn't have the full information because of the decision to not share about the financial stuff going on behind the scenes with your friends and family until you found out about his gambling addiction. So, yeah.
Let's get back to the series. So Crypto tells me he's going to hire a PI to look into my ex. I was 100% on board with this. I did not tell my ex this was being done. So those few days where I was waiting for the results, I remember just being so nervous. I'm like, I don't even know what's gonna come up. Like, I feel like, do I even know this man? And so after a couple days, Crypto sends me a text and he says, okay, here are the preliminary findings. The first thing was that there was no criminal history found whatsoever. So that made me feel a little bit good because I was like, okay, maybe this situation with Crypto is kind of like an isolated incident and it's not like as bad as I think it is. Like he didn't like con like a ton of people in Denmark. And then the big thing that he found was that my ex did not go to the Olympics, not once and not twice. And when I found this out, I was sick to my stomach. And the first thing that I felt was embarrassment because like, why did I not look this up? And I think the reason why I didn't look it up is because the way he downplayed it, like, oh, I didn't play, I was like backup of the backup. It just was like an afterthought to me. It's also why I didn't like bring it up to other people. There's a lot of people that didn't even know that he mentioned that he went to the Olympics because I didn't really talk about it because it was like I said, it was an afterthought. And so I was just deeply upset by this information, just to know that someone could lie about something like this. I was like, this is truly...
He lied about a gambling addiction. We're surprised that he lied about him going to the Olympics. I'm not, that one's like the least of my concern. We're surprised that he... Girl. The lie about the gambling addiction should have been the nail in the coffin. I'm surprised that she's more shocked by the fact that he lied about the Olympics. Which I clocked, by the way, that it sounds like that was just a lie made in the moment to make him seem more important than he is. Girl.
Sick. When I received this message, I was at an open house and luckily it was a vacant house and there was no one in this home. So I had my time to do some research and I start looking through our WhatsApp messages and videos, trying to just reflect on all the things that he told me. And I see the photos that he sent me of his apartment in Copenhagen, the one that he had sold a year prior. And so I downloaded the photos and then I reverse Google image searched them and it pulled up an interior designer's home in Germany. And that just fully sent me completely because obviously this
Wait,
is the house
I missed that. Sorry guys, let me go back.
And so I was just deeply upset by this information, just to know that someone could lie about something like this. I was like, this is truly sick. When I received this message, I was at an open house and luckily it was a vacant house and there was no one in this home. So I had my time to do some research and I start looking through our WhatsApp messages and videos, trying to just reflect on all the things that he told me. And I see the photos that he sent me of his apartment in Copenhagen, the one that he had sold a year prior. And so I downloaded the photos and then I reverse Google image searched them and it pulled up an interior designer's home in Germany. And that just fully sent me completely because obviously this is a house that he just purchased and sold and made that $500,000 in profit, and half of it went towards the tax bill and half of it went to his friend's plumbing business. And so I'm just like, this is so sick and disgusting. I can't believe someone would have the audacity to lie about this. So I go back home. He actually was at the gym. So I'm just home spiraling, waiting for him to get back. And he walks in and the second he walks,
I don't know if it's just me and maybe because I have been through a narcissistic abuse relationship and I trust, but I have initial high skepticism until I can even in a long-term relationship, like I'll usually verify a lot of things. And that might also just be the entrepreneur in me too. But I'm shocked that this, like, we didn't reverse Google search the apartment before. Like we're co-working while we're doing this, so I missed the fact that she'd gotten pictures from him, especially when it's like a huge like financial thing. Like, why didn't we reverse Google search? And we'll give her grace again because I understand that she was younger, first time being in a long-term relationship. She really just thought that she could take this man's word for every single thing. And I do want to watch, like, figure out, like, what season of The Bachelor she was in and maybe just, like, go through the parts that she was in because I'm curious as to what she experienced then. Because you would think, like, a show like The Bachelor where there is usually, like, lying and manipulation and stuff like that going on, that would make you more of a skeptic. I'm shocked that she had the pictures and she didn't reverse image. It's one of those things that it just, like, takes a couple seconds to just verify this information. And I'm also trying to be mindful, like, okay, we're not victim blaming, but at the same time, accountability for your own safety, for your own well-being, to make sure that this man, like what this man is saying is true, especially when he's presenting himself to be this really big person who has so much money and everything. Like, you should be able to verify every single thing that he's saying if he is as successful as he says. Sometimes we do just want to believe a lie just because we just want to believe it. It gives us a sense of safety and security, and that can be a form of escapism. But yeah, I continue to be shocked. And I'm sure that there's going to be more revelations, and we're going to be able to tie it back to like previous moments where we're like, yeah, we knew that this was a red flag. Wow.
And I immediately say, I need you to sit down. We need to have a talk. And he automatically looks kind of annoyed. He's like, what now? Because obviously we'd been really going through it the past week with like,
that response pisses me off so much.
He's been going to GA meetings. I've been wanting to talk about his addiction all day, every day, because I want to get as much information as possible. And so he's just like, I'm drained, I'm tired. I'm like, sit down, we need to talk.
Wow.
So he sits down and I say, did you go to the Olympics? And he goes, yes, I did. I go, no, I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you go to the Olympics? He goes, I went to the Olympics. So I say, okay, well, I'm going to give your mom a call and I'm going to verify it with her. So I pull up my phone and I dial her number. It actually rings once. And he goes, okay, I didn't go to the Olympics. And I just remember just sitting there and just being like, who lies about something like that? And I told him, on top of that, you also lied about the apartment that you were living in. I was like, this is sick. And at this point, I'm spiraling because I don't know what's real or what's fake.
So I'm just, as someone who has been in a narcissistic abuse relationship, and I do want to make sure that we are all more safety conscious, because Onika, you seem lovely. Your sense for safety is completely not there, and I don't know if it's gotten better, like your personal safety. But also, this is your first first relationship like this. So for safety reasons, one of the most dangerous times for anyone in an abusive relationship of any sort is when there is the confrontation, and then when you try to leave. The leaving part is usually where things can escalate to a point where you end up 6 feet under, right? This conversation, although you feel like it would make the most sense to have it behind closed doors, there should be safety measures in place, because when you are confronting someone you know is already lying to you and you are about to back them into a corner, you don't know how they're going to react. You already know that you don't know who the F this man is. And now you are confronting him on his lies behind closed doors. Keep in mind, he showed her a different side of him when he got drunk and got belligerent. And they ended up going at it, like verbally, after that trip of theirs. And now she's deciding to confront him behind closed doors, not letting any of her friends know that she's going to confront him. This could have been a moment where, if he was that kind of person where he goes from 0 to 1,000 and he feels backed into a corner, this could have turned out so badly for her. When I ended up, like the last time, like I had that I'm leaving conversation with my narcissistic ex, my best friend at the time knew when I was going, when I arrived, and when I left. And she knew if she didn't hear back from me in 30 minutes to call the cops. When I went to end things with my narcissistic ex, I made sure we didn't go into the basement. We stayed at the top level of the house. I knew all of the exit points. We actually stayed right close to the front door in like the living area. I made sure, like, my key, like, if you're going to do anything, I'm going to jab it in your eye. I went in prepared for the worst. The best case scenario would have been to have the conversation in public, like go to Starbucks, go for a walk, we're in public, and then I can dash, scream for help, something like that. But you don't want to go into a conversation like this with someone you know has been consistently lying to you, who has an addiction, without proper safety precautions. So PSA for anyone who's trying to leave an emotionally, mentally, potentially physically abusive relationship, when it comes to confronting them about their lives, or when it comes to leaving, you don't do that without proper safety measures in place. You don't do that without alerting someone, giving them a timeline, making sure that they're checking in on you. And then you don't do that ideally behind closed doors. You want to have that conversation in public, or better yet, someone drops you off, they park just down the road, or they're parked, somewhere close by where within a minute's notice, if like they like text you every 5 minutes or something like that, they can come to the house and check in. I sometimes I watch like true crime and stuff like that. And one of the videos I was watching last night was the woman getting killed literally the day that she confronted her husband about cheating and said that she was going to leave. The man went from 0 to 100, brutally murdered her. So that's just something to be mindful of. Obviously, by the grace of God, she's here, she's alive, but this could have gone so differently. So PSA for anyone who's in the situation, who's with a manipulative or abusive partner, you don't confront them one-on-one without safety measures in place, please. Oh my goodness.
And so I tell him, listen, I saw the email from your lawyer about the business account, so I feel like I got the proof I needed for that, but I do need proof about the other 2 apartments in Copenhagen. He said, absolutely. And that's when he pulls up the lease agreements, and obviously the lease agreements are like all in Danish, but he's like translating it for me. There's like the name, there's the address, there's the amount they're paying, it's their lease term, all these things. And so I was like, okay, I felt like this was proof. And so at this point, I like don't know where we go from here. And like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like 100%, I was thinking about just picking up the phone, calling my family, and just being like, this is happening, I need to leave him. But I'm still so in love with this man. I can't picture a life without him. Despite everything that he's put me through, I just felt like I could not say goodbye to him. And
I understand that feeling. One of the things I worked on with my therapist when I was learning to date again after that narcissistic abuse relationship, so I could pick healthier partners, is that regardless of what goes on, you have to love yourself enough to be able to leave the person that you feel so in love with. If you do not truly love yourself enough, you will end up being more susceptible to these kinds of relationships. You have to love yourself enough to be able to protect yourself when someone is intentionally hurting you. Because this is him being intentional with all of his lies and everything like that. This is him not giving an F about you. And yes, you can still love the person who put you through hell, experienced it. It is a horrendous juxtaposition of your emotions, but you do have to love yourself enough to get the F out if this relationship becomes a detriment to your health, your safety, and your health includes your mental health as well. You can't love a man more than yourself. You can't love a man more than God. And we knew that this was going to be the outcome when she said that in the first 8 parts that the man, essentially she felt like this man could destroy her. And I told you, no one can destroy me but God. It's healthy to be interdependent in a relationship, but you have to also know that, yeah, I can't survive without this person. If you get into a relationship where you feel like you can't survive without them, there's either something wrong within the dynamic where you might be getting emotionally manipulated, or there's something in terms of you needing to do some self-work when it comes to potential codependency or other trauma that has happened in your past that makes you overly attached to someone. And as someone who's experienced a lot of trauma, I was looking for love in places that I shouldn't have been. And if you don't get to that place of loving yourself more than the dynamic that you're in, it puts you in a really, really, really hard spot when you actually do need to leave. And I think a lot of us, we know it's hard for people who have kids with their partner to leave, but a lot of women end up doing it not because they love themselves more than the person that they were with. They stayed in the abusive relationship for a reason, but because they love their kids more than the person that they were with, and they didn't want harm coming to the kids. If you're a Christian woman, you got to love God more than the person that you're with. The Bible asks us to do so.
And I really just felt like disease is the enemy, not him. So we need to work as a team and fight it together and overcome this. And I felt like we were capable of anything at this.
It's a beautiful sentiment for a partner who deserves it and who is showing consistent action towards wanting to also overcome this disease. That consistent effort would have come at the beginning, where he would have actually been open to you about having the past addiction. He set the tone from the beginning about how he's going to act when it comes to his addiction. And yes, we can say, well, people deserve second chances. We shouldn't just judge them based off of, one action. But you asked him a question. You asked him multiple questions, and he directly lied to your face yet again. So although it's beautiful and fluffy to think like it's us against this disease, this man literally just proved to you that he will lie to you to preserve his image. It's not going to be you against this disease if he is hell-bent on keeping the same patterns that got him in this situation to begin with. Lying being a major component of being an addict.
At this point, and especially like with the challenges that we had already gone through, I felt like we were invincible, like we could overcome anything. That's the mentality that I was going into it with. And so obviously I'm talking to him about my reservations. I was like, I don't know where we go from here. And I did tell him that I didn't know like how to move forward. And that's when he just like starts crying, and he's just like, I love you so much. Like, whatever I can do to prove to you that I will be the man that you deserve, I will do it. And he's like, I am sick to my stomach about what I did to Crypto and his wife. I saw him, and he was, living such a great life. And in my mind, I thought like I could take some of his money and like make more money, and then I could give him this interest, and then we would have some money. And I was like, listen, this is all delusion. And at this point, I've done a lot of research on gambling addiction, and it's like it's all a delusion centered around this dream world where you're going to provide these cars and nice and luxuries to the people that you love when you get your big win, and it never happens. And so I just said, listen, you need to know, and I know you already know this, I don't need these things. I don't need the big house, the fancy cars. I don't need any of this. I don't. Like, I'm happy just being here in Dallas with you and just hanging out with Smokey on the couch watching movies. I don't need any of this. And I did feel so ill and disgusted, but I'm still so in love with him. Despite the lies, despite everything, the love was still 100% there. And so I communicated to him, I said, listen, things have got to change or you're gonna lose me, plain and simple. And he said, I will do anything I can to keep you. And like, this is my first time seeing him cry, and as you guys can assume, I'm a very empathetic person. So at that time, I just went over to him and hugged him, and we both just like cried together for like an hour. And it felt like the breakthrough I had been waiting for our entire relationship, because I'd never seen this emotional side to him. And I felt like, okay, like we've had this breakthrough, now we can move forward. And so
the tears were probably because he was feeling a loss of control over the situation. And that might sound cold of me, but once again, I've been in a narcissistic abuse relationship, and spotting the manipulation tactics, it definitely does make you more guarded afterwards. Hence why I made sure that I worked with my therapist while I was actively trying to intentionally date, so I could get guidance in what to be on high alert for versus what to relax on. Because you definitely, like some people, you swing too far to the left after going through an abusive relationship where everything becomes a red flag, when that's not the reality, right? So for her to be so impacted by the tears, once again, it's more of like an emotional maturity / she's never dated someone who's this manipulative, and this is just another tactic. And oftentimes the tears are more so from their feeling of losing control, as opposed to genuinely feeling remorseful of the current situation. And it sucks when you come to that realization that, yeah, like they weren't feeling as hurt and they weren't grieving the same thing that you were grieving, that they were just, it was a self-serving moment where you think you guys are crying about one thing, but realistically he's just crying about the fact that he's about to lose his supply of money, his supply of love, his supply of for some people the narcissistic supply. But oh, I hate this for her.
So we had already had a trip booked to Colombia because he only could be in the States for 90 days. So we're like, where can we go that's affordable and you can reset the 90 days without having to fly all the way back to Denmark? And so we went to Cartagena, Colombia, and it was a very affordable trip. And I know a lot of you are thinking like, how are you traveling? He was making a very steady income, and once I found out about the gambling, like his account was like stacking back up. I had told him like, we're gonna reach out to crypto, we're gonna set up a payment plan. And I had told crypto about the trip to Colombia that we had already booked, so that I didn't seem like we were being disrespectful towards him. I had a feeling that he had the ring for some time and that he was going to propose, and he knew that he could not propose to me with everything that was going on, and he needed to take time. And by the time we were going to Colombia, I felt like we were getting our lives back on track. We were obviously stacking up our money again, and I felt like he was being open and honest with me. He would talk to me about his addiction. He was going to GA meetings every single week. But I still did not feel comfortable accepting a proposal unless he made amends with crypto and crypto's wife. And so I told him the day before we went to Colombia, I said, we need to go and have a sit down conversation with crypto and crypto's wife. And obviously I realize now that my ex should have been the one to suggest that we go make amends with crypto and crypto's wife. But regardless, we go there the day before we go to Colombia, we go to their house and we sit down in front of crypto and crypto's wife, and I will pick back up in part 16.
Okay. Since we are a little bit ahead of schedule, I haven't been yapping too much. Let's finish part 16 and then we will end for today, because I am curious about how this part goes. So we might go a little bit over because we've got about 20-ish minutes left, and it's looking like well, the episodes are usually 10 minutes long, so we'll see if I have a lot of commentary to give on this or if we breeze through it. But we will stop after this one, and then we will be back tomorrow at the same time, 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern time, to hopefully wrap up the series. And then maybe we might do like a follow-up, or I might do some reaction videos to follow up on like other things that she's added on, because she's been making quite a few follow-up videos too.
The Danish Deception, part 16. Okay, let me recap a little bit for you guys. So it is now April of 2024. I found out about his gambling addiction in February of 2024. So we've had a very, very solid good 2 months. I feel like he's being honest. I have a feeling he's ready to propose because I knew he had the ring, but he knew I wasn't ready to accept that proposal from him, even though we were already married, but it still was like symbolic to me. So I wanted us to be in a good place. So I had a feeling he wanted to propose in Colombia. And so I set up a meeting for us to make amends with crypto and crypto's wife. So we go to their home, we walk in, I'm already feeling so emotional. And we sit down and at first we're just sitting, talking, catching up. And then finally, and you can tell it's like the elephant in the room for like the first 30 minutes that we're there. And then finally, I was the first one that spoke. I was just like, I just want to speak on behalf of myself and say that you guys are just two amazing human beings, and the empathy that you showed us, even when it wasn't deserved, will never go unnoticed. And I just, from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say I'm sorry for not being more vigilant and realizing the situation that we were in. And then my ex began to talk, and he basically just said, I know that I did these things, but it almost was like I was a different person. Like it felt like I wasn't in control of myself and my actions. And it was just, he was just speaking from the heart and just saying like this addiction took over me and I almost didn't know right from wrong. And crypto and crypto's wife both took turns talking, and they were just so understanding. And, they communicated, we understand this is a disease and we still care about you both, and we still want to have both of you in our lives. And it just felt like it was a great conversation, and I felt like we can move forward from here. We're going to set up a payment plan, and everything's gonna be okay. And so the next day we go to Cartagena, Colombia, have a spectacular time. And I was kind of expecting the proposal throughout the trip, and I didn't know when it was gonna come. And then there was a night that we went to dinner, and then we went out for a drink, and then we came back home. And the hotel we were staying at had a rooftop that was like overlooking the city. And so we went up there with a bottle of wine, and we're just drinking wine and just talking. And I, at that moment, just felt so grateful for him and for his sobriety and for his honesty. And before I know it, I look down and he's down on one knee and he tells me, I know this isn't your dream proposal, and I know I've let you down a lot, but I will make it up to you, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be the man that you deserve. And at this point, I'm just hysterically crying, and I'm so happy. And it really did feel like the happiest moment of my life, and the yes was so easy. There was not a doubt in my mind. It kind of felt like it did whenever we got married. There was no hesitation, but it felt much more deeper this time around, because now I know about his flaws, and I know about his struggles, and I know he's not this, perfect individual, which nobody's perfect. We're just imperfect people that come together and try to have a relationship. So after Cartagena,
What I don't like about the timing of the proposal is it is after he has been on good behavior. So he's been playing the part of, doing the right thing. 2 months is not enough time, by the way, to judge if someone has actually changed. It takes about 30 days to form a new habit, and then after the 30 days is when you start to see if this habit is actually going to stick. And a lot of narcissists, they can put on a show for 3 months, 10 years. They can put on a really, really good show. So the fact that they are in Cartagena, whenever you travel, obviously your mood's elevated. They've just had this conversation to reconcile with Crypto and his wife. This man is taking advantage of the emotional high that she's on, because she's feeling good about the fact that he's been putting in effort for only 2 months. I'm going to put an emphasis on only 2 months. She's feeling good about the fact that they've reconciled with Crypto, because we're just going to assume that all of his words are BS at this point. He's just saying what he needs to say to get out of the bad books with people. And now you guys are, in a dream destination, going back to like that psychology of like bachelor and dating shows, where there's a high from traveling and all of these like fast-paced things, so you don't have the time to actually sit with how you're genuinely feeling. And I feel like the proposal at this time was intentional, because right now she's on a high, they're on a high. And yes, you want to propose during good times, but if he's actually taking her emotional health and mental health seriously, he would have waited until he's fully kicked his addiction. There's been like consistency in this. He's broken away from it to propose to her. And you might be like, well, maybe you might want to play devil's advocate. Like, there's no right time to propose and stuff like that. In this situation, I do believe there's a right time. And that right time would have been when he has been in GA, like going to the Gamblers Anonymous meetings long enough, consistently enough, and been on good behavior long enough, whatever that looks like when it comes to like the Gambling Addiction Association and what they recommend. They should have waited it out until he finished that program, or until she maybe talked to a sponsor or the people who are organizing it to figure out what is a healthy timeline for to be considered like clean, before he did the proposal and everything like that. I know that they're already married, so it doesn't make a difference in a sense, but it does, because now this is now that he's officially proposing and everything like that, I'm assuming now the parents are going to be like, oh, like, let's get you married, all of this stuff. So I don't love this. I feel like this is just another form of the manipulation. And in her situation, what she could have done is to have a conversation with the sponsors, with the GA people, to figure out like, what does this timeline look like for this addiction? What should I be looking out for in terms of potential manipulative tactics and stuff like that?
We come back and, we're just trying to enjoy ourselves, enjoy being engaged, sharing it with our family and friends. Because at this point, we can actually tell our friends and family, like, we're spending forever together. So we are so just happy to be able to take it all in. And Easter comes around, and I remember I was making a roast, and I had one of my friends was over, and my little sister, and I'm making a roast, and we're eating on Easter Sunday after we went to church, and my ex gets a message from his mom, and she's like, I need you to call me right now. And she never does that. So obviously we're freaking out, and I'm like, what's going on? He goes upstairs, and he's gone for maybe like a couple minutes, and I can hear him talking in Danish. And then he comes downstairs, and I'm like, what's happening? He was like, well, my dad's back in the hospital because he was going to therapy and like fell and broke his hip. And he went to go get a hip replacement surgery. And after the surgery, like, he was like, recovering fine. And then out of nowhere, his heart stopped, and they had to resuscitate him. And he's fine now, but his mom just wanted us to know. And so I'm like freaking out. And we didn't really know what was going to happen when we went to bed that night. So we wake up the next morning, we get the news that he's doing just fine. And I just remember feeling so relieved because we didn't know what we were going to wake up to. Yeah. To this day, I don't know why his heart stopped, but regardless, we're just happy he was doing good. Yeah. So over the course of a month, his dad's health is, he's still doing good. Me and my ex are doing really, really good. We just got engaged to the world. Finances are getting better. He's being honest with me. He's still going to GA meetings, and I feel like things are getting better. And so we traveled to Panama for my 30th birthday, and we were with my sister and some of my friends and my ex, and he was actually the only guy on this trip, which was 100% unintentional. And we're on our way to Panama, and while we're in the air, obviously my phone's on airplane mode, and we land, and I take the airplane mode off, and I look at my phone, and I have all these calls from his sister and his sister's boyfriend. And so I'm a little bit confused. I open up the messages, and I see that she's saying, you need to call me immediately. Immediately, I was like, something bad's happened. And so I look at my ex, I show him the messages, and obviously he has similar messages as well on his phone. He turns it on. And so he was like, there's nothing we can do. We're sitting on a plane. Let's just get off the plane, and then I'll call her. So we get off the plane, and we just kind of step aside. He calls her, and he's like, okay. And he's talking in Danish. So I don't really understand what's going on. And then he gets off the phone. I was like, what happened? He was like, oh, his heart stopped, and they weren't able to resuscitate him. And I was like, what? I was like, your dad died? And it was the most like uncomfortable position for me because he did not show any emotion at all. And I was like, are you okay? And I just remember just holding his hand. I was like, what can we do? What can I do for you? He's like, honestly, let's just go through customs and let's get to the hotel, and then we'll figure it out there. And it was the most bizarre situation ever because it's like his dad's death did not faze him at all. And I am someone that's very, very close to my dad, and so I put myself in his shoes, and I'm like, I'd be wailing on the floor, screaming at the top of my lungs. And so, I know everyone deals with grief differently, and I just wanted to support him in any way I could. So we go to the hotel, and
so I was going to add on to that she can't judge his reaction. Obviously, we know there's something wrong with this man. Okay, so if it wasn't this kind of man where he's manipulative and your partner did have this reaction to finding out that a parent died, you can't judge that reaction in the moment because shock is a thing that a lot of us experience. I remember when I found out that my dad was sick. There was just so many things going on at that time, and I literally sent Kyle a voice note. I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, my dad's and he messages me, he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, dude, I was having such a hard time trying to process because I had so much chaos going on in the background. I just moved, and then I find this out about my dad, and my dad and I are estranged. So my dad, we talked maybe 2 or 3 times in my life, minus when I was like a baby and he was around. So I was like, okay, cool. Just found out that news because my mom had asked me when my mom told me as well. I was just looking at her, and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go back to work. She's like, okay. So for a lot of people, if they had seen my reaction in the moment, they would have been like, mentally, are you okay? What is wrong with you? But then when I got to sit down from the chaos, because I was in the middle of work when I found out this information. When I got to sit with it more, that's when it started hitting me. And then being with him, losing him, I was not a functional human being for a good half a year. So you can't judge someone's emotional reaction in the moment, especially with quite a few men. They'll hear the news and then the grief will hit them a little bit later. So that's just a PSA, because yeah, there are some people where, you know, you have a really close relationship with your parent, and or you're more empathetic or you're more emotional, so you'll have an emotional reaction right away. But there are some of us who are more reserved, or the relationship with the person wasn't the greatest, so it does take a little bit more processing for us to react. And sometimes we may not react super emotionally. It's more so like you'll notice changes in our behaviors, or we might not smile as much and stuff like that. You might not see us cry, but there will still be signs of grief. They're just not as overt as someone bursting into tears and falling to the ground, because everyone does react differently and everyone does grieve differently. So I did want to just add that one in there, because it is normal for some men and women to not be extremely emotionally reactive when hearing news like that initially, because some of us, it does take us a little bit longer to process.
Mom calls him and we're on FaceTime and she's just bawling her eyes out. And I saw like one tear come from his eye. And that's when I realized it felt like he was more sad that his mom was sad than he was, and that his dad died again. This is me just making assumptions. I don't know for a fact that that was what he was feeling, but I did feel a little bit strange. And at this point, I'm looking at flights to go back to Dallas so that
I'm just going to say, but it's not, to me, that doesn't seem strange, because she noted that him and his dad didn't seem that close when she was in person. And that might seem weird for those of you who are close to both parents and who's like both of your parents were involved in your life. So you expect other people to have reactions to losing both parents equally. I know that when my mom inevitably goes to be with God, my emotional reaction to losing my mom is going to be probably 500 times much worse. I plan to be fully incapacitated. It's going to be significantly worse than my reaction to losing my dad. My reaction to losing my dad was horrendous to begin with, so I'm not ready for that, but God will guide me through, as he did with losing my dad. But if you're not close to a parent, yeah, or a parent was not healthy to you, a parent was not kind and loving and nurturing to you, it's not abnormal to see a child not be as impacted about losing that parent. And it might sound strange if you came from like a two-parent household where both of your parents were super involved, but that is the reality. We have closer relationships to other people, to different people in our lives, and obviously the person that you're closest with, that will impact you more than the person who was not as close with you.
He can get on a plane to go to Aalborg, Denmark, to be there for his family. And so I'm looking at flights, and he's talking to his mom on the phone. He gets off the phone and he was like, we're actually gonna stay. I go, we're gonna stay? He's like, it's your 30th birthday. I just talked to my mom, like she does not want us to leave. The funeral is not gonna be for a week, so we're just gonna enjoy our time here, and then we're gonna go back home. And I'm like, this is so weird.
This is the
How am I supposed to
selfless
celebrate
man.
my birthday when my father-in-law just passed away? It just
Yeah.
felt so wrong.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, we tried our best to have a good time on the trip, but it was just like, we were sad every day. And there was one night that my ex got really bad food poisoning. We had to get a doctor into the room to give him an IV. It just felt like everything was going wrong. And so I'm not gonna lie, I need to go back to Panama and experience it again, because that trip was like not it. And I wanted to make something very clear. He paid for everything for that trip to Panama. So like flight, hotel, and all the meals for everyone, including me and the girls that were on the trip. So we go back to Dallas for one day, and then we head to Denmark, and it was so nice being there for his family. It was so emotional, and seeing his mom cry, just be so sad, it like broke my heart. Again, I'm not sensing a whole lot of emotion from my ex, but you know, like I said before, everyone processes their grief in different ways. But we go to the funeral, and I remember I'm sitting in the front row holding my ex's hands, and I look up at him and I see like he's like starting to cry like at the funeral, and that's the first time I've seen him cry. And so I was like, okay, there's emotion there. Like, I don't know where like the emotion's coming from. Like, is it coming from like losing his dad, resentment, from, you know, regrets? I really don't know, but I definitely could sense there was emotion there. And so after the funeral, you know, the next couple of days, I just spent spent a lot of time with his family, and I spent a lot of time with his older sister because she was around, because the mom wanted all of her kids and grandkids to be around her. Obviously, she just lost her husband of 50 years.
Yeah.
And so I started spending a lot more time with the older sister, and I'm not picking up on like a whole lot of bad vibes. Like, I thought she was super nice. I thought her kids were so cute, and I love babies. I love little kids. So I really started to bond with her kids. And so it was a good trip. Obviously, there was definitely some tension, but regardless, I think everyone got along, and we were able to just support each other while they all grieved, like losing their father and slash husband. So after being in Denmark for about a week, I had to go back to Dallas because I had some listings that needed to go live and I had to work. And so I'm back home in Dallas for maybe like a couple days, and I get an email from immigration saying that I have a notification, and I will continue the rest in part 17.
Wow.
The Danish.
Okay, so we just finished off with an immigration notification. We are going to pause there because I do have an appointment to pop to shortly. But let me know your thoughts on parts 9 to 16 that we just did. It's very interesting that we ended it with him dying, or his dad dying, and just seeing his reaction to that. It does seem like a genuine reaction, but this whole addiction thing, but the Lulu is still there, and I cannot wait. I'm actually genuinely excited for her to see how she gets out of this relationship, because although these relationships and hearing about them, they can be so much in the moment, it is always nice to hear people coming out of them in one piece. Mentally, emotionally, obviously, this was a lot for her, and she will heal, especially if she seeks therapy and everything like that. But I'm just grateful that she is alive, because once again, this could have gone very, very differently, especially with someone who does not hesitate to lie to you. You don't know what else they are capable of doing, and you don't know what else they would do to you when backed in a corner. So I'm grateful that Onika is alive to share her story. That confrontation, once again, safety first. If you're going to confront someone where you feel like they have been lying to you a lot, or you found out information, or they have been emotionally, mentally, physically abusive to you, please, 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 please notify someone on the day of the confrontation or the day you plan on leaving. If you were planning on leaving, do it when they're not home. Do it with someone supporting you and helping you, because there have been instances where the person planned to leave when the partner wasn't home, but the partner had an idea or an inkling that they might be trying to leave, and then they kind of stake things out and still end up hurting the person who was getting abused, because they had an idea that the person would try to leave. So even in a situation where you're trying to leave, if you're leaving at night or you're planning on leaving the day while they're at work, still having a friend that can back you up or support you in that, or a family member that can support you in that, is super important. But at the end of the day, safety first when it comes to these kinds of relationships. And if you are someone who's gone through a narcissistic abuse relationship before too, or you have gone through a manipulative or toxic relationship as well, sending you so much love, because this one is it's not easy to get out. And if you have gotten out, I'm super proud of you. And if you are trying to get out, you absolutely can do it. And getting a therapist, talking to your friends or family, talking to your church council, so that you can have the right support systems in place to get out, is super, super important. So yeah, that is it for this stream. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. PST, which is 9 a.m. Eastern, to continue the Danish Deception and to wrap it up. And then I'll do either some follow-up live streams or some follow-up reaction videos.